Hey, everybody. We are at a critical time in our country. And Turning Point USA, we are at the front lines of what's happening in the American culture war. We are on pace to have 1,000 high school chapters by the end of this year. We have events with thousands and thousands of students, including right now, in the very room that this event, the Student Action Summit, is happening. We had our Young Women's Leadership Summit with 2,500 young conservative women leaders from across the country. We have a school board watch list project coming out in August. We have our professor watch list project. We have our China on Campus project. We are doing the most ambitious campus tour in the entire country. I personally go and visit these college campuses, but we need your help. And every single gift you give right now is matched dollar for dollar. That's right, dollar for dollar. All you have to do is go to TPUSA.com. That's TPUSA.com. Hit the donate tab. It's hard to miss. And give what you can. Every dollar is matched dollar for dollar. And we here at Turning Point USA, we have 165 full-time people on our staff in the field that are doing the work of organizing groups, of getting students trained and activated to be able to take back our country. If you're worried about our educational system, if you're worried about the future of America, then please back us up if you can. Give us the tools and the resources we need to keep growing. We are going to be hiring another 28 people just in August in just one project in particular, and 30 other people just to work on college campus type work. And you guys can help us at TPUSA.com. That's TPUSA.com. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for backing us. Remember, your gift is matched dollar for dollar at TPUSA.com. Hey, everybody. We are at a critical
Hey, I'm Alex Clark, the host of Politics, the first ever daily show that Turning Point USA ever created, and I target young women with pop culture from a conservative perspective. To support shows like mine, please go to tpusa.com/donate.
Hey guys, I'm Isabelle Brown, one of our Turning Point USA contributors, and I'm just here to thank you so much for your ongoing support of all things TPUSA. I got my start on my college campus starting a chapter, so I know firsthand just how important the work that we do on the ground of America's college campuses is every single day. Now doing what I do as a contributor, I get to reach hundreds of thousands of people every day, including with my new shows in the TPUSA Productions Department. Your ongoing support means that we can start new shows and new chapters all over the country. You can make a donation to Turning Point USA at tpusa.com/donate.
Hey, everybody. We are at a critical time in our country. And Turning Point USA, we are at the front lines of what's happening in the American culture war. We are on pace to have 1,000 high school chapters by the end of this year. We have events with thousands and thousands of students, including right now, in the very room that this event, the Student Action Summit, is happening. We had our Young Women's Leadership Summit with 2,500 young conservative women leaders from across the country. We have a school board watch list project coming out in August. We have our professor watch list project. We have our China on Campus project. We are doing the most ambitious campus tour in the entire country, where I personally go and visit these college campuses, but we need your help. And every single gift you give right now is matched dollar for dollar. That's right, dollar for dollar. All you have to do is go to TPUSA.com. That's TPUSA.com. Hit the donate tab. It's hard to miss. And give what you can. Every dollar is matched dollar for dollar. And we here at Turning Point USA, we have 165 full-time people on our staff in the field that are doing the work of organizing groups, of getting students trained and activated to be able to take back our country. If you're worried about our educational system, if you're worried about the future of America, then please back us up if you can. Give us the tools and the resources we need to keep growing. We are going to be hiring another 28 people just in August in just one project in particular, and 30 other people just to work on college campus type work. And you guys can help us at TPUSA.com. That's TPUSA.com. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for backing us. Remember, your gift is matched dollar for dollar at TPUSA.com.
We have to really look at the current history of the criminal justice system and realize that it is not adequate enough to prosecute itself.
If they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection, I'm getting a very good feeling about vaccination right this moment.
It's important to me that diversity is put front and center.
We went from COVID to the epidemic of gun violence.
Walls do not save lives.
It will save your life.
And I was really disturbed. I saw Trump flags and in some cases just dozens of American flags.
So I also represent CNN, and so I must tell the truth. And if I don't, if my facts are wrong, then I have to clarify it, and I have to come on television, and I have to apologize, and I say, I got that wrong.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Nothing quite like these fantastic events that Charlie Kirk puts on. What a patriot, what a fighter, what a difference one person can make in the world, in the country, what he's done with this student movement that you guys have created. Ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come. I love it, I love it, I love it. Student Action Summit, how are we feeling today? I'm feeling good and happy to be in a free state like Florida, so thank you to Governor DeSantis for getting it done right. And I just came back from the People's Republic of California. Oh my goodness. And even though I had to fly the red eye to be here this morning, I couldn't wait to get on the plane, get out of there, and get here to you. So thank you for having me. You guys all have a great weekend here in Florida with all these fantastic speakers? Like I said, the best is yet to come, and the best starts with Charlie Kirk. Let's thank Charlie Kirk for the incredible job that he has done here at the Student Action Summit. It seems like every weekend he's having one of these things, and I hope he is just getting started and does it all the time. This is what we need in this country. Freedom and liberty-loving patriots like each and every one of you who love America. Like its name suggests, Turning Point USA is all about the turning point that we face in this country, in America today. And the knowledge that you are gathering, the relationships that you are making at conferences and summits like this will be life-changing for you. The skills that you're learning are not just going to make a difference in your lives, but thanks to all of you, we are going to save America. We need each and every one of you because as a society, we are faced with a tremendous challenge day after day, challenges that seem daunting, but challenges I believe, I am confident, I know that we can overcome. Let's talk about the first challenge, shall we? The mainstream media. We just got to quit them, I got to tell you. I spent many years in the media, including as a host, as you know, on Fox News, The Five, and I have seen firsthand the good, and I have seen the bad, you know, MSDNC and CNN and the rest of them. Unbelievable, very loose relationship with the truth that they have, put it that way. But I have seen the hard-hitting, honest journalism and journalists out there that do try. But I have also seen up close and personal the fake news that is out there. And we can't be afraid to call them out. They need to be held responsible because balanced, honest media has in large part ceased to exist in this country, and shame on them. Not just in America, but across the world. But let's not fool ourselves because the media has never been without a biased perspective. But there was once a time when the media giants at least tried to pursue the truth and do their job. They tried to tell the whole story, but that is not the case any longer. Instead, journalists have largely abandoned the pursuit of truth, choosing instead to weaponize the news and push a dangerous and destructive agenda with a radical worldview. A worldview that is intolerant to traditional conservative values. A worldview that is intolerant of differing perspectives, dissenting information or opinion. And a worldview that, if made true, would undermine the very promise of our great nation. But we aren't going to let that happen, are we? No way. Worst case is that they actually know what they are doing. They are intentional. It is purposeful, the disinformation they spread. And if we have learned anything over the past 5 years or so, it's that the media will do whatever is necessary to advance their agenda. But they're not fooling us. Because also throughout the COVID-19 crisis, they mocked our incredible president who was leading our nation admirably with strength and vision and determination. When he shut down travel from China, they called him a racist. When he said emergency room doctors who were on the front lines of the fight were actually seeing positive results from the use of hydroxychloroquine, he was attacked. The most cutting-edge research was found that hydroxychloroquine has been actually an incredibly effective treatment for COVID-19. I know I took it myself thanks to President Trump, who called me and said, Kimberly, take it. So thank him again for that. And shutting down travel from China saved an untold number of lives. Thank you again, President Trump, for that. And the media has become so consumed with their own radical agenda and their hate that they've lost sight of the responsibility to report, to inform, and to serve the people. But they sure do love their Pinocchios, right? They love to do it. They love to call out, oh, Pinocchio on this. If I say it's an incredibly large group, amazing, of freedom-loving young patriots, they'll say, oh, 3 Pinocchios to Guilfoyle. There are other large crowds, so she can't say that this is the largest crowd. This is what they do. They stay up at night trying to do this nonsense. It's kind of crazy, as we say in Spanish, loco de cabeza, right? But the media is only one piece of the problem. We can't blame it all on them, because the next challenge we see, and you are all very familiar with, is the internet. what has become a problem, because as a society, our greatest strength has now become our greatest weakness in many respects. Thanks to the internet, we have become more informed than we have ever been. We have the information and the world at our fingertips, anything we want to look up. The problem is that too many people believe that because they've scrolled Twitter or Facebook, reading a couple of headlines, that they are now experts and they know the truth. We have all those friends, any of us that are on Facebook, who become like brilliant legal minds or like LegalZoom.com in 5 seconds. They think they're world-renowned scientists, historians. They know better than everybody else, all in the matter of 5 seconds. It's kind of convenient, right? But more often than not, the opinions being shared aren't even supported by the articles or the information that they're attached to. Yet, if you share a thought that runs contrary to what the Silicon Valley elites believe, you're censored, you're canceled, and you're gone. And I lost over 200,000 followers on Twitter over one night after the election. And I'm not even misbehaving on Twitter like Don Jr., if you know what I mean. So it just goes to show you, I'm Princess Voice of Reason. In one night that happened. You can't even post a video of the 45th President of the United States, if you can believe that. No clue, they won't tell us, they just censor and take everything down. Now this means that a handful of big tech people are now able to decide the truth and what you should believe and what you should think and what you should do with your life. They want to control you, and they do this with their algorithms, and they're set up to do just that, to make sure that we digest only the information that they choose for us to see and believe. Now, I know that some people probably didn't like 4 a.m. tweets from President Trump. I loved them personally. But those tweets weren't the problem, were they? Honestly, I think we can all agree. Don't we miss them? But if people were paying attention, they'd see the freedom of speech is actually disappearing. If they can do it to me, if they can do it to the President of the United States, who can't they do it to? They can do it to each and every one of you. Now, the internet is supposed to be a place that connects people and ideas, but it has turned into a one-way highway of partisan hate and divide. And finally, the third challenge we face, which you saw some of those pictures up on the screen. Wow, that's like an early morning buzzkill, right? Politics. In 2018, I went from covering politics, having a front row seat, to then actually living it and breathing it. Working for the President as Senior Advisor and National Finance Chair, and now proudly serving as the head of MAGA Action for the President, 45th President of the United States, and what an honor it is. And as we know, politics is not for the faint of heart. And Don Jr. likes to tell a story, and some of you may have heard it, about the election going back in the moments in 2015 before Donald Trump announced that he was running for office. He was on the elevator with Don Jr. and the family, and as the story goes, the ride was sort of silent on the way down as they were thinking about what they were about to take on as a family and the enormity of the situation. And when they were on the elevator, the president turned to his children then, because it was game time, and he said, just before the doors opened to the world, he looked up and said, now we find out who our real friends are. Isn't it true? Isn't it true? But yet they have stood, and Donald Trump has stood for this country time and time again. And the thing I think I'm most impressed with is that he continues to stand today, because each and every one of you is worth it, and this country is worth it. He did not abandon us, and he will not abandon this country. And nor shall we. Many of you here are here because you're getting amazing training to be involved. You're getting involved in this country. You're not just seeing problems and complaining about it. You're saying, I choose to make a difference. I choose to give back to my country like President Trump has by running, and we encourage you to do this. For student body boards, let your voice be heard. We are transforming this country. I believe our biggest and only hope are the youth of America sitting right here in this beautiful convention center, because you are the ones that are going to be the future leaders of tomorrow. You are the ones that are going to inspire and lead by example. And I couldn't be happier or more optimistic or positive about our future as a country with all of you out there fighting for us. And I salute you for your dedication and your courage. This is the time that we must act for this country. The fight is just beginning for the heart and soul of America. We are continuing to go across this country, state to state, spreading the principles of America first. Unafraid to stand for the American dream. We are proud to stand for the hardworking men and women in this country that Donald Trump lifted up and emancipated and said, you have a voice and I will fight for you. We finally had a president in the White House that knew what it meant to be a proud, born-free American, that knew what it meant to build the world's strongest economy, that knew what it meant to restore America's greatness and foreign policy and national intelligence respected throughout the world. We have a president that knew what it meant to have manufacturing jobs, to understand and bring about world peace in important, consequential ways in regions across the world. Finally, a person that was worthy of the White House. And let me tell you, each and every day, do we not miss him even more? He is continuing to fight. He is strong and dedicated and resilient. And he will make sure that we go ahead and win back the House. We will control the Senate. We will take the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hands. And with the help of each and every one of you, we will, God willing, take back the White House. President Trump, quite frankly, is what this country deserves. And nobody more than myself and Don Jr. and the family would love to see him back out there fighting for each and every one of you. We want the incredible values, the platform, the policies, the America First dream that the president restored to this country. We will stand with President Trump. I'm proud to stand with him. I ask you to stand for your country. I pray for you, for your families. I'm optimistic about your future. We will make America great again. Let's do it together. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Let's get it done. Love you guys.
Thank you very much. Hey, what a great job Kimberly Guilfoyle did, right? What a great way to kind of get waked up here. It's great to be with you here today. You know, I tell some of my friends I'm coming here to speak at this event, and they go, "Well, you know, you built this pretty significant company, and you know, I'm sure that what you'll say is inspiring." And what my response to them is, "No, I'm the one who's inspired by you every single time. Your enthusiasm, your commitment, your patriotism. I'm not just saying this, it's amazing. Thank you so much for what every one of you is actually doing." The Turning Point people like for me to kind of provide, I guess, a little bit of a change of pace. I'm not from the world of politics. I'm mostly a business guy. I started and built what turned out to be a pretty significant enterprise. I've now shifted to the world of politics as co-publisher of Human Events, but it's my business background that they want me to talk about a little bit. You know, the polls indicate young people in your generation, 70% of you say, when asked, that you'd like to start and run your own company someday. 70%. It's amazing. How many of you feel like that? Let me see your hands. You might want to do that. It's incredible. What I'd like to do today, then, is take just a few minutes to talk about my experience and some of the main things that happened in building Varsity Brands from scratch, from my apartment to what became, as I said, a pretty significant enterprise. Talk about the things that I learned, just the basic things that may help you as you're sitting there going, I want to start my own. I was just visiting with someone backstage, and they said, yeah, I really want to start a consulting business, but you know, my family doesn't have any real experience in business, and I just don't know how to do it. So let me take a couple of minutes and talk about it. Let's talk about the basic building blocks, and some of them are going to be a lot different than you think. They're not going to be about the typical things that you would see in business school about all the statistical analysis and a long business plan and how you raise capital. Those are all commodities. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about how you, whether it's a small group or a big company, you can create a culture that sets you up to be successful in anything that you're doing. When I was just out of college, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, very much a middle-class family. Oh, we got some Texans out there, maybe even Cowboys fans, you never know. I grew up in very much a middle-class family, went to the University of Oklahoma. I was a Yale leader there. I got out of college before going to law school, which I never got to, thank goodness. The legal profession is better off for it. But I decided to start a company. And I decided to start, it was really this idea that we could take what was a traditional school leadership activity, cheerleading, and add athleticism and entertainment and make it something really different. And that's about how sophisticated my start was. Raised a little bit of money from friends and family, set up the first world headquarters, which was the second bedroom of my apartment in Memphis, Tennessee, and got started. I hired college students, the best college cheerleaders in the country, 24 of them. We went out and did one-day clinics, and we developed this curriculum where people could learn to do all the things that you see now on the sidelines with all the stunts and gymnastics. That was the concept that we brought to cheerleading. We went through all of our money before our first summer, which we were actually going to, the way we would generate revenue would be through summer training camps for high schools and college. We went through all of our initial capital. We were almost broke. From the very first year, we almost didn't make it, and then we started to gradually get registrations in. We had a successful summer where we went out and taught several thousand cheerleaders, kind of our new concept, and we actually made a profit the very first year. I think it was like $2.10 or something like that. But we were in the black. We continued to build those camps, and then 4 or 5 years later, we got into the uniform business. And we had got into that not because we saw this strategic opportunity, I wish I'd been that smart, but rather because all of our customers at camps were saying, the uniforms that are out there now don't have any performance qualities. We can't do the things that you teach us unless we have something different. So we created a different line that did have performance fabrics that were more exciting. We created modern day footwear where people could, as you see, climb on each other and do things like that. And we got in the uniform, and we had a problem there too. We got all of our uniform orders in the first year, so we had invested everything from our camps into that. We sent the uniforms to our contractor to make them. Our contractor called me and said they were in bankruptcy. So now we had no way to get our uniforms out. So again, my life passes in front of me, right? We were able to find a guy in North Carolina managing a sweater factory. We actually bought him 4 sewing machines, set them up in the basement of his house, and got the uniforms out. Then we added competitions the next day. What you see on ESPN, sometimes actually some of the shows are on this weekend. You see those? That's the concept that I brought to the table. The idea was not that I saw some other revenue source, but it was a way to get exposure for the new style and new brand that we were building. So we had camps, uniforms, and competitions. We actually had our show broadcast on ESPN. We are ESPN's longest-standing sports partner. We were there before the NBA and the NFL and college football. Over 25 years, we grew the company by cross-marketing between those divisions and really developing an egalitarian culture, kind of an all-for-one, one-for-all. The company today, I left the company in December, the company that I founded, to focus on politics and human events. But the company is a multi-billion-dollar company, thousands of employees operating in 50 states. We do 1 million custom uniform pieces every year, 300,000 students at camps. Now, I'm not bragging, okay? It wasn't me. It was always about the team. The 24 people that started with me were all in college. I was 23 years old, okay? And we started this company and we had an idea. We didn't have all the sophisticated background and all the consultants and whatever. We had a great idea and we had each other. And we were able to build a culture through the years that kept that seed from the very beginning. Even though there were thousands of people, the culture was always about the team. Now, believe me, it was competitive. Our culture became known as what we called internally the heart and the fist. So when you're thinking about your company or your organization, remember this. Business isn't just a team sport, as you hear. It's a contact sport, all right? It's tough. It's tough. The minute you have a good idea and it gets going, somebody else wants part of that, and you have to defend it, and you have to take territory, okay? So for your competitors, you've got to be tough. You've got to have the fist. And you got to have people that are competitive and that want to win and that believe in what you're doing and are willing to sacrifice together for it. And you expect the very best from each other every day, every time. That's the fist. The other side is the heart that we called it. That was for our customers, the people that we had something for that we thought could help them so much, and we wanted to treat them the right way and give them great service. And it was also for our colleagues, the people within our company. Everybody had their role. Every job is important. Every person is respected no matter what they're doing and celebrated. It's an egalitarian culture where everybody pitched in and helped each other. To me, this is the secret of business success, okay? That heart and fist culture that includes everybody and that's egalitarian. Now, for you, as you start a business in this day and age, you're going to face some of the same challenges I did. But you've got some unique challenges that I think make it even harder. Kind of glad I'm not actually getting started, but I think this is something that you can do. So let me talk just a little bit about what that is. I think you'll agree with me that what made our country great and continues to make our country great and can unlock millions of unlock the future for tens of millions of Americans is American entrepreneurship. People from all walks of life with the freedom to innovate, to build an organization, to bring an idea or a concept to life, and to contribute to our society as a whole. However, the left wants you to believe that our system is one that creates winners and losers based strictly on things like race, gender, where you come from. They talk about privilege. They talk about systemic racism. They talk about critical race theory. They want minorities in our country to believe that they are victims, that there's nothing they can do to succeed without the help of government. They want white Americans to believe that everything bad about our country is their fault and that only government can fix it. That's wrong. In fact, it's fundamentally un-American. The left's real goal is to reshape American capitalism, to move us to a more socialist model, one where the American economic engine runs more like a European system. They do so in the name of equity. The reality, however, is a lot different than the socialist utopian dream they're selling. According to the Peterson Institute of International Economics, over half of European billionaires inherited their wealth, compared to less than 1/3 in the US. Almost all of America's wealthiest people actually started companies. Very few of Europe's did. Examples like this, think about the wealthiest people you know. My friend Fred Smith of FedEx, okay, started that company from scratch, wrote a thesis in business school, this concept of a hub and spoke transportation system. He got a C. The professor said it'll never work. I give you FedEx today. Peter Thiel with PayPal. Mike Lindell of My Pillow, right? Eli Musk of Tesla. And yes, I'm going to say it. And now you can turn around and boo. Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. There, yeah, right on cue. I love that. I love that. Look, let me tell you about Mark Zuckerberg. I believe that Facebook is so overstepped. They so overreached. They've gone from this company that got started in communication, and now they have this virtual monopoly. They're biased. I think some of their positions are even bigoted, so they've overstepped. But you have to give somebody like Mark Zuckerberg credit. He started with an idea, and he built it into an incredibly sized company, let's put it like that. The companies that are started by American billionaires are about half as old as Europe's billionaire companies. And in America, unlike Europe, the rich aren't getting richer here. New people are becoming even richer than the previously rich. And the reason for that is this. Because of decades of misguided, even though we've had decades of misguided meddling by the federal government, Americans like you still embrace dynamic competition. And we overmanage our markets less than the power-hungry bureaucrats in Brussels, in Paris, and Rome. Our economic system has prevailed because for generations, individuals and companies have done two main things. First, they focused on their mission. They've had the environment to do that. Focus. Secondly, they fostered a culture that unified, not divided, like the culture I talked to you about earlier. Each of them had a vision. They focused their entire company on that vision. They rallied them around it, and they were able to succeed. Focus and unity. So, whatever advantages a company has, I don't care if you've got talented people, you've got name recognition in a free and fair market, to be successful, that company over the long haul has to have focus and unity. And yet, as I look around at the American economy, many of you will be entering, I see the opposite of focus and unity. I see movement toward woke capitalism, which is driven by distraction and division, both of which have their roots in the misguided left-wing ideas leaping from the barely breathing corpses of their previous homes, academia and the media, into a more nutritious host, our golden goose, the American business. So, I talked about distractions. So recently, it became very fashionable to argue that companies should do a lot more than focus on their business mission and profitability. Some of the largest companies in our country, CEOs, members of the Business Roundtable, decided that they should focus on a much broader agenda, more than just creating great products and having a great company and making money, but rather all kinds of social issues. This is to, not just to satisfy their stockholders and employees, but really now to be about local communities, the environment, and even more vague, promoting social justice. I know you've heard already, I'm sure other people have talked about kind of the actions of Coca-Cola, but they're not the only one. Coca-Cola and Delta, there are hundreds of companies that have gotten into this woke culture. That's what they recommend. That's what they preach. That's what they're all about. And I think this has tremendously negative consequences for us and for everybody. Even banks are into this now. Banks are now saying to companies, if you don't push this social agenda, if you don't spend time on it, they're saying this even to small businesses, that if you don't push this, we're not going to loan you money. So imagine you own a small business and you've just been through the worst pandemic in 100 years. It's whacked your revenues. It's made it difficult for you to get your employees to come back to work. You've held it together. You've done whatever you can. And now the bank comes along and says, by the way, you have to spend a lot of time on this diversity and equity and inclusion thing, and we're going to measure how well you do it. And if you don't do it well enough, we're not going to give you your working capital loan to run your company. It's totally wrong. Now, some people think that these companies do this because they're all about their image, and they want the liberal customers to see them as a different type of company. Well, let me just tell you this, that first of all, in doing this, it's very divisive. The employees within that company, think about this, at least 50% of the employees disagree with that philosophy. Look at the election. Now, you're working for one of these companies, and they're spouting all of this type of information, You totally disagree with it, but your friends, your family, whatever, they identify you with that. A board of directors is not elected to push these social issues. They represent all of the employees. They represent their customers. Okay? The company should not be about alienating anyone. A company should be about including everyone. Everyone. Now, you see this also in where companies demand that their employees speak politically a certain way. If you're a conservative, your opinion is not necessary. And if you want to talk about it, don't talk about it in public. And our philosophy is going to be this liberal philosophy. Totally wrong. Totally wrong. Again, they're going to alienate the employees, they're going to alienate the customers, and they lose their way. Think about the ramifications of this long term for American companies, the greatest economic engine in the world. And we're going to be distracted about all these other things rather than what made our economy great, which is, again, entrepreneurism, which is focusing on new products, how to do things better, how to create, different types of things that help our entire society. No, we're going to be distracted about these other things, all right? So when you get out there and you launch that company that you say you would like to launch, keep all of this in mind. Keep this in mind. And by the way, nobody within a company should be forced to acknowledge or confirm any political position. No one, right? You have the chance to make a difference when you start your company, or if you're getting ready to go to work for another company. Look for a company that's not like this. There are plenty of them out there, and modern companies. Okay? I read about 2 technology companies recently, and one of them actually was a broker of cryptocurrency. And they've gone through, they're building their companies, and then everybody got distracted with all of the political arguments, and the entire workforce was going back and forth. Both of them said, enough. We are not going to have that kind of political conversation and that arguing within our company. We're going to be about our business. You want to talk about those in your private life, whatever? That's fine. On one of them, 30% of their workforce resigned because they wouldn't take a liberal political position. Guess what? Both those CEOs are thrilled that they did what they did, because now they've got a workforce focusing on what can make their company great. And that's what I think you need to do, all right? So, we cannot allow American-style capitalism to become hostage to woke capitalism or woke corporate culture. Okay, we cannot allow it to happen. Again, we've already lost the media. We've lost academia. We've lost pop culture. This is the one thing standing between us and socialism. Socialism creates big, high-end winners and everybody else. Look at Europe. I know some of you have been to Europe and you've traveled. There's a very small middle class in Europe. Certainly not a middle class as affluent as we have here. That's what socialism does. The very elite and everybody else. It kills entrepreneurism. It kills creativity. It kills excellence, right? We're Americans, okay? This is the country that we built, and we built it on freedom, and we built it on the ability to take a dream and a concept and to make it something special, okay? Defending this, all of us have to be in this together. At the end of the day, though, it's going to be your generation that makes the difference. So I tell you, I know many of you are under attack when you're at your college campuses. You feel like you're out there on your own. You're dealing with this pressure from academia that now other people in our society are finally beginning to understand. You know how to stand up for it. You know how to be brave. Take that bravery and apply it here in this area. Okay? We have to save American entrepreneurism for everybody, for generations to come. You are the people that will do it. And as I look out here, there's no doubt in my mind you will do it. So thank you for fighting the fight, and thank you for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody has any questions? Anybody has any questions or anything? Yes.
How y'all doing this morning? I'm in my hotel room last night, and the whole time, till about 4:30, I could hear all the other TPUSA folks partying right outside my hotel room. Yeah, front row still partying. Well done, well done. Thanks to Charlie Kirk. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you to the donors and sponsors that put this thing on. All the people backstage working, everybody organizing it. Thank you for all you do. Turning Point members, all you folks, thank you so much. Can you imagine if Donald Trump said when he was president, we're going to send a bunch of people out and they're going to go rapping on everybody's door in America and they're going to say, hey, have you got the vaccine yet? What would have happened? What would have happened? The media would have gone bonkers. Congress would have tried to impeach him again. But you know what it's all about? It's always about control. The left wants control. They want to control you. And what the opposite of that means is it's really all about freedom. It is always about freedom. And their view of freedom is not yours and my view of freedom. I view it as it's about you individually. Each one of you has God-given innate abilities. There's a plan for you. There's something for you. They view it as a collective, that you aren't fulfilled unless you're some part of this great collective. And as Jeff just said, the elite's up here and everybody else is part of this collective. That's what they believe. That is what they believe. So when Anthony Fauci said about a year ago that lockdowns, economic basically dismemberment of our economy would be a, quote, inconvenience, close quote. He wasn't talking about public health. He was talking about controlling you and controlling America. That's what Anthony Fauci was about. So was it really a surprise when Joe Biden said in a rambling speech, wait a second, that's the only kind he gives. When Joe Biden said in one of his speeches, he said, look, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to go community by community, and that means house to house, knocking on doors to try to get people to take the vaccine. That shouldn't have surprised anybody. That didn't surprise me. And when Javier Becerra, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, said, there's nothing that violates the Constitution. We're just sending people to people's front doors. You don't have to answer it. Well, let's leave that for a second. Then if that's the case, Secretary Becerra, then when I plaster up a posted no trespassing sign and you come on my property and I call the sheriff and say, arrest this individual for trespassing on my property, then that's okay too. That's okay too. When I think of where we've come in this country and the control that's trying to be put upon each one of us, I think, President Biden, do you have a database already? How do you know which houses to go to if there's no federal database? If you don't have a database, are you going and using other databases? Are they giving you information? How are you going to enforce this, President Biden? You know what? I thought about that so much, I wrote a letter to the president the day he said that he wanted to go door to door. You know what I've heard back from the president? Nothing. Nothing. And that's because he doesn't want to answer those questions. He wants to have another double chocolate chip ice cream cone somewhere, and then that's going to work for him. Look, I'm going to take some questions on any topic you want. I remember I was at an event in Israel, and Bibi Netanyahu said that. He said, I'll answer, you can ask any question you want, and I'll decide if I'm going to answer it. So feel free. I will just conclude by telling you this. There are solutions to these problems. My generation has actually kind of slept at the wheel on these problems. But if you're looking for Congress to solve your problems, I will tell you, you're looking in the wrong place. The best place for these problems to be solved are the state and local level, state and local level. That will bring our country back. That will restore this nation. And the best people to turn the states and local governments around and make them stronger are you. When you look in the mirror, they're the circle of friends that you have. They are the people that are going to be able to address the government that's closest to them. I believe that strongly. You're the generation that will save this country. We are in an existential crisis. The path is to neo-fascism, Marxism, or the path is to restore individual freedom and liberty and a constitutionally separated powers, both horizontally and vertically. If we do that, then your generation will enjoy freedom and future generations will enjoy freedom. God bless each one of you. We need his hand. We need your hands. And it's up to you, and I'll fight with you. But let's fight together to turn this nation back to one of individual freedom, liberty, with constitutional protections, separation of powers, that the American dream will go forward from this day in perpetuity. Let's take questions.
Hi, my name is Noah from North Carolina. A question that I've had for a while now is, how can we as conservatives respond to liberals that are essentially bullying us? How would we make what my mom would describe as a kind response?
Well, a bully, in my experience, is a bully always backs down when you are tough back. You don't have to be violent, but you have to be straight, strong, know the principles that you have, articulate them well without fear, because they will immediately move. When you move it to logic, they will immediately respond with ad hominem and visceral attacks on you. Be courageous. And so you can talk about it in terms of how do we work, live, learn, and play better. Is it under a free society, or is it under that Marxist controlled society you want? And you can make it and bring it right to that. But that's really what we're talking about here today, is how to work, live, learn, play, so we can fulfill the measure of our creation. They don't want that. They will respond always viscerally, and quite frankly, sometimes you have to give them a rhetorical punch in the nose. Not a literal one. Not a literal one, you got to say that now. But a rhetorical one. They'll back down. We've already seen in the Biden administration, they've already backed down. When the will of the people is manifest and there's critical mass communicating it, they've backed down. Let's make them back down on all of this stuff.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm lovely. Thanks for asking.
Sure. So my name is Stevie, and my question is, what should I say when a conservative convention keeps inviting a, quote, conservative who believes attacking the Roe v. Wade abortion case is unconstitutional?
Well, you make your voice known. You just make your voice known over and over again. I mean, the reality is, if you're participating in that convention, you should speak out about it and let the sponsors, the donors, and the organizers know. That's what I would do. Actually, sometimes I'll actually pick up a phone call and say, I'll pick up a phone and give somebody a call and say, "What up? Why is this person there?" But by and large, I let them run their organization, and I'll come and speak hard truths. So, thank you.
Hello, Congressman. Quick question. So, with Arizona concluding the audit, there's a lot of questions that were raised, and other states are in the process of doing their own. What should be the natural recourse if the results don't match what happened on election night?
So we're going to find out a lot of information. Arizona's still not quite done. They need certain information from certain elected officials who won't turn that information and that data set and that hardware over to the auditors. Look, I will tell you what I think would happen if Arizona said, and they just, let's say they decertified their electors, which some of the state senators have said that they're inclined to do. If that were to happen, that's still not enough to affect the count of the 2020 election. It would take other states to do that. But let's say you got there, because the Congress certified, this would end up in litigation in the United States Supreme Court, is my opinion. And the question would be, is the Supreme Court going to boot it or respond to it? And would it be done even in time before the next 2024 election? Hard to believe it would. In other words, I think the can will continue to be kicked down the road.
Hey, Congressman, my name is Michael. I'm a huge fan. I'm LDS, just like you. I go to a BYU. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So I just wanted to hear what your opinion is. A lot of Christian universities have come out and basically forced vaccinations on students. I just wanted to hear what your take is on that.
So I am really disturbed by it. Obviously, if it's a private college, it gets to make its decisions, and you get to shop, and as a shopper, you can deal with that as a consumer on your own. But the problem is, virtually every private college now adheres to Title IX because it allows students to take part in federally insured student loans. And so the Supreme Court has said there's a nexus. You're going to have to be regulated by the federal government. It seems to me then, if under that logic, that if Congress could get the will, we could say, we're not going to allow you to have federally insured student loans, or we're not going to allow you to have federal funding or federal grants or federal science grants, etc., if you mandate that, if we had the votes. I've introduced legislation along those lines. To me, it's important that we do that. We've got to stop this intrusion into our private lives. I believe that you're all adults. I'm an adult. I assess risk. If I want the vaccine, I can get it. If I don't want the vaccine, I won't get it. If you get the vaccine, ostensibly, you're supposed to be protected anyway. Let us make those choices, not government bureaucrats and not college bureaucrats. So.
All right, this will be our last question.
Good morning. My name's Avery, and I'm going to be a sophomore in high school this year. And this past year, I faced many teachers telling us lies and pushing their liberal beliefs on us. And many of my fellow classmates were too scared to stand up against these teachers. So my question is, how do we make it easier for high schoolers and college students to stand up against the teachers and stand up against the indoctrination and demand a proper civic education?
Wow. Good for you, Avery. Look, here's the thing. What I think needs to happen is we need to have people, places like TPUSA that are aggregating videos from people like you. I think you also need to be at your school boards. I think your parents need to be at the school boards with you. I think we need to take back school boards. Those are the people making the bad decisions. They allow the superintendents and the teachers to teach this garbage, and we need people like you and other students to have an outlet and a forum. And if you're bullied, then we need to have the special interest law firms file lawsuits on your behalf to take them down. God bless all of you. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
This is TPUSA Live, a brand new, unfiltered conservative live show for you and grassroots activists to call home.
This 3-hour show, live Monday through Friday, features your favorite conservative personalities covering culture and everything going on in the conservative movement.
Each live stream includes brand new TPUSA daily shows, live and studio content, plus all of the content you already know and love.
This show will feature our entire contributor team.
Charlie Kirk, Benny Johnson, Rob Smith, Jordan Rachel, Alex Clark, Isabelle Brown, Graham Allen, Morgan Zagers, Stephen Davis, Aaron Elmore, Kendall Jones, and of course, yours truly, John Root, TPUSA's newest contributor and your daily show host. The show will also feature other conservative personalities join us live right here from TPUSA HQ.
Catch us every weekday across all Turning Point USA social media channels and on TPUSA.com/live.
Also, make sure you keep up and engage daily with content written by our contributors like me on the TPUSA Live feed.
TPUSA Live is the first grassroots activist-oriented live stream dedicated to authentic, conservative, unfiltered live content. This is where our base should be. This is TPUSA Live.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Woo! Hey, everybody, we got Charlie Kirk and the rest of our...
Hey, everybody, and a couple of our...
Hey, but we are so excited that TPUSA Live is finally here. It's finally here, and hey, I cannot wait for September. How about you guys? September is going to be incredible. You guys haven't seen content like this ever before. It's going to feature all these contributors. Aren't they great? Don't you love these people? But once again, I'm John Root, TPUSA's newest contributor, and I'm going to be your daily host of TPUSA Live, live from TPUSA HQ. It's going to be incredible. Like you saw in the video, 3 hours of live content. We have brand new daily shows featuring a lot of these beautiful people right here. We got brand new weekly shows. We're covering sports, pop culture, everything in between. 2A, Kendall, I know you love that. Also, how about MAGA Holds Guns? He's got a couple of them out here. But it's going to be incredible, unfiltered, unashamed, live content. It's our first ever conservative grassroots activist live stream coming September 13th. But Charlie Kirk, let's get him hyped. Tell him a little bit more.
We're super excited for Turning Point USA Live, everybody. 3 hours every single day, straight from Turning Point USA headquarters. It's going to be on every single distribution channel, and some yet to be announced. And we all complain about the media, but it's time for us to start to launch our own content so we could fight back against the media. We're going to be covering everything from what's happening in the world to sports to pop culture. It's going to be an amazing thing, and Alex has done such a great job of building that base, and Isabelle and Stephen and Rob and Kendall and Graham and Benny. And you look at this, you see the combined power. And by the way, we want all of you to potentially be involved in this as contributors, as sending us stories on your campuses. We are now going to take the millions and millions and millions of followers we have at Turning Point USA and engage in this digital space with 3 hours of live content a day. And so we're super excited about this, and you're all going to play a major role. And John, back to you.
Hey, we're taking over. It's going to be incredible. You guys are sick and tired of cookie cutter content. You guys never get cookie cutter content for Turning Point USA. But right now, you guys, these are some beautiful people out here, but I think you guys need some new merch. Steven. Let's get him some stuff. You ready to show off that arm? Alex? You guys gotta make some noise if you want a t-shirt. Come on. Hey, Rob Smith, look at you. Hey, come on, what did I say about making some noise? I need a little bit more, come on. On his dude. And once again, everybody, too, we are so excited about TPUSA Live. You guys can follow us across all our social media channels. Also, check out tpusa.com/live. If you didn't get a t-shirt, we also got an information booth. That is at Media Row. So find us out there, get a t-shirt, we got pop sockets, all that good stuff. But once again, can we make some noise for our contributors? Charlie Kirk, rest of the team, TPUSA Live is here.
September 13th, everybody, Turning Point USA Live. We want all of you involved and engaged. We'll be coming to your campus, breaking your stories, holding your professors accountable to fight back against the left. God bless you guys. We can't wait.
Thank you, guys.
So I got some things I want y'all to do, because y'all know when I come out here, we gotta get hyped, baby. We gotta get hyped. So I want y'all to stay standing. If you've been in my speeches, you know that I always do my little in the end we win, right? But I want to make it personal this time. When I say in the end, I want you to say I win, right? But I'm gonna make it a little more sentimental. I want you to process what I'm saying, right? So while you're standing, I want you to close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes. Nobody gonna hurt you. You're around conservatives, all right? And I want you to think about a few things as I do the call and response. I'll say in the end, you'll say I win. But I want you to think about some things first. I want you to think about all them haters out there that have put you through a bunch of mess this year. I want you to think about them. I want you to think about all the trials and tribulations that you've been through. I want you to process it. I want you to think about all the failures all the doubts, all the chaos, failed relationships, whatever it may be, I want you to process them. I want you to put them in your mind. And while you're thinking about it, I want you to declare this with your whole heart, because I believe that the power of life and death is in your tongue. So I want you to repeat after me. I'm going to say in the end, you say I win. Y'all ready? In the end. Oh, man, y'all can do better than that. In the end. In the end. All right, take a seat. Take a seat. Y'all sound good. The reason that I do that is because I want you to internalize, honestly, that you're going to win in the end of this. No matter what the trial is, no matter what the situation is, no matter what you're going through, no matter how many friends have walked away from you, in the end of this, you're going to be victorious. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Who have seen me speak before? All right, there's some lazy ones out there. Y'all ain't on track yet. I'll get you up to speed. No, I'm just playing. But I wasn't always like this, right? I had gold teeth in my mouth. I got Young Savage tattooed across my stomach. If anybody says something wrong to me, they'll catch these hands. How many of y'all know what that means? Y'all know what that means? All right. Some of y'all listen to rap music. But I wasn't like this. You know, I had a left-leaning ideology when I was in college. But what changed? There's two main factors that changed who I was or how did I become who I am today. The first thing, which I think a lot of you guys may understand this, is that I got saved. The most important accomplishment in my life was when I received Christ as my Lord and Savior. And the second is that I had an open mind. I wasn't following the Joneses. Just because my homeboy says something, don't make it true. Just because everybody is going in one direction, don't mean you have to go. You need to have your own mind. Have an open mind, do your own research, come up with your own conclusions about the things that are going on. Because I had that open mind, I was able to receive information that led me to think differently. I was able to receive information that helped me realize that we do not live in a racist country. That is a lie from the pit of hell. It's a lie. Another thing that helped me open up my understanding because I was open-minded is that police officers as a profession is not a systemically racist organization. Not true. Oh, it's finna get a little dicey here. And one thing that helped me realize, because I had an open mind, is that abortion is murder. I got some people standing up for that. It's murder. Another element that I was able to receive is that my accomplishments and the things that I'm able to accomplish or do in this world is based on my belief in God and also my personal effort. It has nothing to do with the white man, the black man. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with you putting in the best effort that you can, being the best version of yourself. I want you guys to understand that you are not going to be like your neighbor, the person standing next to you. That's not your goal. Your goal is not to aspire to be like Brandon Tatum. Although I may be inspiring, I agree, okay? At least that's what my wife tells me every day, I'm inspiring. But your goal is to be the best version of yourself. You have talents, you have abilities, you have strengths, you have goals, and your goal in life is for you to accomplish that. And I'll tell you this, one thing that I learned, don't worry about what other people are saying about your faith and your beliefs and your dreams, your aspirations, what you stand on. Do not worry about these people who don't understand the vision that you have. that don't understand what you've been through, that don't understand what you see through your own education and your own research. Don't worry about these people. You be the best version of yourself. I want to go back to a point when it comes to policing. For you guys that may not know who I am, I'm a former police officer. I was a police officer. Thank you. I was a police officer in Tucson, Arizona for 6.5 years. While I was a police officer, I trained officers how to become officers. I was a field training officer. I was on a SWAT team. I was a spokesperson. Believe it or not, I was a spokesperson for the police department. And I trained at the academy. So I did a lot of great things. And I saved a lot of people's lives. And I want people to understand that the majority of what police officers do in this country is they save people's lives. And saving lives is not diving over a cliff to grab somebody's leg or grabbing somebody off a cliff, which is what I did. It's not just that. It's pouring into people every day with all you have. I will never forget, every day I would come home from policing, I would be empty because all I did was give everything I had to the people that were around me, the people that I served. I would speak life to them and tell them everything is going to be okay. You can make it. You can change. Put the drugs down. Go to rehab. Officer Tatum, believe in you. And I would go home completely empty. And that's what police officers do, majority of them do on a day-to-day basis. They empty themselves in service to other people whom they don't know and who probably don't care about them. People spit in my face, and I still serve, and I still believed in them. And I want people to understand that in some way that that's what police officers are here to do. They're here to serve. And I want you guys to be bold enough to stand on your faith and on your beliefs that we're not a racist nation. And we are all in this together. We may look different. Some of y'all may be taller, shorter, more beautiful, more charisma, you know, whatever your thing is, whatever God has blessed you with. That ain't up to me to judge you. But some of us may be different, smarter, some more ambitious. Some people may be migrants here, legally, hopefully. Some people may come from different nations, different customs. It doesn't matter. When you are in this country and you have sworn to love and appreciate the United States of America for the great country that it is, we're one people. We're one people. And my personal belief is that we're all God's children. And I want us to understand that because there's an effort by a lot of people in this country, most of them are in leftist leadership. They want to divide us. They want us to hate each other. They want us to look at each other and decide, are you a good person based on if you got vaccinated or not, if you're wearing a mask or not, if you are social justice conscious or not, do you believe in white supremacy and racism or not? They want to divide us on those things. But one thing I can say to you is that we should be united on the front of believing that this is a great country, believing that we're all one under God, and believing that we live in the greatest country on planet Earth. So I want to open it up for Q&A at some point. I'm gonna finish it with this statement here, and it's very simple. There's no hoorah and all of this stuff. I just want, at the end of everything that I've said, I want you to believe in yourself. That's the most important thing. I want you to believe in yourself. I want you to look at your days that you wake up every morning and say, I have 24 hours in one day. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to build myself? How am I investing in my dream? I want you to understand that. I'm in a position right now that I live my dream. Why? because I believed in myself. I had visualization of what I wanted to become, and I didn't let anybody get in the way. When I was a police officer, I said, I'm gonna write a book one day. It's gonna be called Beating Black and Blue. That book is finished. I used to fly on the airplane. I was single, like some of y'all in here. Raise your hand if you're a single man. All right, you better not be out here dating and all that messing around. You better put a ring on it. Where my couple at? It was a couple I met yesterday. There they go, right there. He put a ring on it. That's what I'm saying. There you go. To the young men out here, when I was single, I visualized my wife. I used to fly on the airplane. People thought I was crazy. I would sit there and I would close my eyes and I'd act like I'm holding my wife's hand. It looked crazy, but I said one day I'm gonna be flying across the country with my wife. And I've been doing that for the last year until she had our new baby. Amen. I said one day I'm gonna speak around the country to thousands of people. And I was just a little police officer driving in a broke down patrol car with a dirty uniform. But I said one day I'm gonna speak to thousands of people. Every time I would fly, I would imagine myself flying to a speaking engagement. Never once could I even imagine that it would be like this. But because I believed it, because I believed it in my heart, because I pursued it with the right intentions, God allowed me to accomplish my dreams. And I want you to understand, that dream isn't just for me. You guys have dreams. You have aspirations. You have goals. One of the reasons that you're here is because you're inspired to do something greater. And I want you to understand that is afforded to you if you pursue it, you believe in it. Y'all agree with me? All right, amen. So I want to leave you with that. I'm going to open up for Q&A. And then we're going to close out the way we started. But we're going to do Q&A first. First question, rapid fire. I'm going to try to do it as fast as I can. I only got 5 minutes. You know they wrong for giving me 20 minutes. I can talk for 3 hours.
I have so many things I want to ask you, but the most powerful thing I think I could have asked you is, we didn't get to do it last year, but could you lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance? Because I can't think of a better person to do that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's a go. That's a go. You want to do it now? All right. We'll face the flag. Y'all ready? Make sure you take your hat off. Show some respect. All right, y'all ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's my man right there. Y'all need to give him VIP. All right, come on. I got 4 minutes.
Hello, my name's Paul. My question is, how do we stop the left from using legal immigration as a way to gain 900,000 Democrat voters for every 1 million immigrants we take in each year?
You said illegal or legal?
Legal.
Well, you know, we got to win the information war, right? People that come here, they come here for a better opportunity. A lot of them love this country. That's why they're here. That's why they've risked their lives in some cases and why they've put in and go through the process of asylum seeking or whatever the case may be to get over here because they love America. They know that we're free. But we have to be, you know, I guess, seasoned enough to have the proper rhetoric to tell them when they get here so that they don't forget the reason why they came here and fled communism or whatever the case may be. We have to win the information war. We have to win the culture war. Those things, if we accomplish that, I think we'll have a better chance at getting more people who migrate here to vote for the right side. Now, I'll tell you, everybody's not a monolith. You're going to have people that migrate here that don't believe in conservative values, and that's fine. But I think we should be thinking about capturing the ones who do. And I think if we win the information war by doing things like we do all over social media, by electing people that are going to be in the office that represent the proper perspective, by putting up quality candidates, not fraudulent people who are in it for themselves, but putting up quality candidates, I think that those are steps in the right direction that we can attempt to win that battle. Thank you.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey.
So I see a lot of hate on the left for police officers, but there's also a lot of frustration on the right, feeling like police officers aren't protecting their rights and they're not standing up against when the left attacks the right. So how do you respond to conservatives who are really, really frustrated with the police because we fight for the blue?
Right, no, I agree. Great question, great question. You guys believe in we the people, right? You know, this country is run by us, not the government. We have a responsibility for our own personal protection. The police officers are secondary. We love them, we respect them, but they're secondary. If we call the police right now, they're going to show up after the fact, right? And so we have a level of personal responsibility to protect ourselves. So that should be the forefront of what we should be doing. If you get attacked or you go into a place like that, you need to protect yourself. I tell you what, in no way in the world is Antifa or anybody like that going to come to Phoenix and going to do anything like I see them doing in Portland. It's going to be a bad day for them, right? I have the Second Amendment, and I will protect myself. And nobody's going to block traffic and do all that stuff because I'm going to stand up. And so if we prioritize believing that we have the right to protect ourselves, not involving ourselves in situations that are going to get us hurt. Because some people go out and they want to protest Antifa, and it's like, you're not accomplishing anything. You're just getting into a fight with people. You're outnumbered. You don't have weapons. You're not prepared. And you get your butt kicked, and you want the cops to intervene. Well, if you're going to go out there, you need to be able to protect yourself. We should have faith in the police department. Understand that they are secondary in our support and defense. They are. In some cases, we use them to save our lives, but in most cases, you're going to have to be the front line of defense, all right, for yourself. And we should maintain support for them and call them out when they're doing something that's illegitimate. So support the ones who are doing what's right, which is most police officers. We can call out agencies and jurisdictions that are putting us in poor positions when it's necessary. However, let's not use one or two situations, and I'm not saying you're doing this because I know you, but let's not use one or two situations to cast a bad light over law enforcement in general. You're doing good.
Hi, Brandon. My name's Adam. I'm going to be a freshman this year in the fall, college going into law enforcement. What advice do you have for me?
Well, I'll say thank you for doing it. You are more brave than me, because when I came into policing, it was fun to be a police officer. It was exciting. Now it's a little more challenging. However, understand this one thing, that it's not a job, it's not a career, it's a calling on your life. And that should sustain you through all the turmoil, and it's going to get better. But thank you for starting. One thing you want to do, you're going to be in good shape, right? You got to work out. So when you go to the academy, you're not in the academy yet, right? You got to work out so you're elite in your physical fitness. So when you get to the academy, you're not worried about physical fitness, you're worried about the psychological part of it. Be a leader when you go to the academy. Lead the marches, lead the runs, right? Lead the push-ups. Make sure you study. All of those things are invaluable for you to become a leader and emerge. That's what I did. Also, you can reach out to me, all right? If you need help, I did oral boards, I hired police officers, I did it all. So you can reach out to me. I'll give you my information right now. And y'all don't be spamming me, all right? All you got to do is go to connect at the Officer Tatum. Connect at the Officer Tatum. Contact me. If you need any personal conversation with me about it, I'll help you. Another general thing that you want to do is make sure you do a ride-along, if you haven't already. That is invaluable. And I'll say this to every single person that's here. If you haven't done a ride-along yet, you have missed out. If you love law enforcement and you want to understand law enforcement a little better, it's better than watching Cops, I'm telling you, or Police 360 or whatever the new show is. You go on to do a ride-along. That's what inspired me to be a police officer. Officer Sean Payne, who's obviously in my book, I saw a hero in Sean Payne, and I became a police officer because of that. So doing a ride-along, because when you go through the application process, they're going to ask you, what have you done to prepare? And by saying I work out, I've done a ride-along, and my whole life has prepared me to be in this position through all of the stuff that you've been through. That's the best way that you can go and prepare. But connect with me if you need more advice. Thank you. Y'all stand to your feet. I got to end it the right way. So all the things that I said, I want you to think about those things. You don't have to close your eyes this time. And we're not going to make it selfish this time. We're going to make it general. When I say in the end, you say we win, right? Because no matter what happened, oh, look, they locking arms right there. Y'all can get close to one another, touch and agree. When I say in the end, you say we win, all right? I want you to understand that when you say this out of your mouth, it will come true. Power of life and death is in your tongue. If you believe in the Bible, and if you don't believe in the Bible, you still believe in the atmosphere and energy and all that stuff. So you should understand that this, you put this out, it's going to come true, all right? In the end. Okay. I feel it. I feel it right up in here. In the end. In the end. In the end. Yeah, baby. See y'all later.
Hey, everybody. Great to see all of you. I have been so excited for this conversation. With someone who's become a friend over the last year, it's really interesting when tyrannical circumstances start to spread in your country. You start to find friends that you otherwise wouldn't really have got the opportunity to know. Dr. James Lindsey has his doctorate in mathematics, which is not easy. He was just explaining to me his doctoral thesis. I don't even understand the category of the thesis, let alone actually what was said. But Dr. James Lindsey and I connected last year around this idea of critical race theory. And Dr. Lindsey has the best book on critical race theory in the entire country. I talk about it all the time. It is called Cynical Theories. It's phenomenal. And Dr. Lindsey has become the go-to source on this idea of critical race theory. How many of you have equity, critical race theory, racial education in your schools, that white privilege, all these sorts of things? This conversation is really going to be focused on what we can do about it and where it comes from. James, welcome.
Thanks, Charlie.
You bet. So tell us, let's just start at the top. Is critical race theory indeed racist?
Yes. It's racist in every possible direction. Every possible direction. It obviously bases itself off of the scapegoating of whiteness, which it identifies explicitly in its own words. They say that with whites, that being and doing are not separated. So being white is doing whiteness, and therefore, because you get white privilege, which you can't renounce. So it holds up whiteness as a scapegoat and is therefore racist against whites. However, it also says that this is the state of affairs in a society that's intrinsically white supremacist, so it upholds white supremacy. Therefore, it positions people of other races, especially black people, as inferior and as incapable of engaging with things like individualism and meritocracy. In fact, it says that whites fooled other races, who apparently are easy to trick, into accepting things like, a diminished or oppressed status in society. So it's racist against every race you can possibly imagine. But don't worry, real racism hasn't been tried yet.
Is that what
That's what this is.
That's what, yeah. And so
it's only the good parts of racism, apparently.
Yeah, so basically the people in charge, the wokesters, they're trying to say that we're so anti-racist that now we're going to be racist.
Well, yeah, so they have to strategically be racist because they believe that, and this is really a strange belief, that you have to actually think of critical race theory kind of like a religious belief about how society is organized. You always hear, right, nobody can even define critical race theory. Wrong. We can. And critical race theory is the belief that society is organized by racism. That's it. That's it. And so because of that, they think that racism is the ordinary state of affairs. That's their words in society. And so the only way to fight back against that is to be racist in the opposite direction or in all directions at the same time. This is why you have Ibram Kendi writing that the only remedy to racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, and the only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination. That's page 19 of How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Which is in our boardrooms, it's even in our weapon manufacturing companies.
Jack Dorsey gave him $10 million because of that.
$10 million from Twitter.
$10 million from Twitter.
To teach people to be currently discriminatory.
Intentionally, and future discriminatory. And as a matter of fact, since this is, obviously an American situation, we have to understand that what Kendi's goal is to actually establish a department of anti-racism that is superior to all three branches of our government and has the final say on everything. That sounds pretty scary, and he wants that backed by constitutional amendment, so that's also pretty scary. So, just to make another link for you that we should just go there, what you had with Marxism was the idea that a dictatorship of the proletariat would arise and usher us through a socialist period to communism. With critical race theory, we're going to have a dictatorship of the anti-racists that's superior to the entire federal government of the United States. There will be no divided powers, no freedom, a dictatorship of the anti-racists that will usher us through a period where we can reimagine race and racism and power and have equity, which is just a new word for race communism.
And so, that's a good way to put it. If we don't get this race issue correct, everybody, the country is done. We are the least racist country ever to exist in the history of the world. And we have to be proud to say that. And I'm going to reemphasize this. This is a strategy and a tactic to obliterate our way of life, to care about how people look, not how they act. Now, James, I'm going to tell you something that I struggle with when I debate with some of these apparatchiks, which is, since their argument and their belief is that everything can be blamed on racism, how do you actually convince them otherwise? Because it goes back to them even saying that your argument is racism as itself. It's as if everything then comes back to that, right? So, for example, they will say that unequal distributions are thanks to racism. They will say that speech is thanks to racism. There's a lot of very, let's say, factual ways to walk people through this, but if their opening argument is that it's in the sky, it's in the air, it's in the food that we eat, it's part of who we are, then how do you actually turn and persuade somebody to think otherwise?
I don't think you do if they start from that presupposition. That's presuppositional apologetics for those of you who are familiar with religious stuff. They have taken up the idea that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in society, even to the point where arguments themselves are racism. Changing their mind is racism. Exactly right. So if somebody's adopted that position, what argument could you give somebody to believe otherwise? They're just going to interpret it as racism every time. So I don't think you can change those people's minds. So what you actually have to do is you have to speak past those people. And I don't mean if it's your friend one-on-one or whatever. You try to talk to him, you try to ask him questions, you try to unsettle that belief. I was on a podcast one time with a woman who was quite woke, and she and I had this conversation. She's a young black woman, and in the middle of the conversation I just said, well, according to critical race theory, racism exists in every interaction. Where was the racism in our interaction? Was I racist to you? And she couldn't find it. And she said that's absurd. So that upset her ability to continue believing that. What you actually have to do is you have to say, I don't accept that presupposition. I don't believe that assumption. I don't believe this manipulation. I think we do have common ground, and I think we can talk about things. And that's what we really have to start doing, is start to appeal. We have common ground. We're both people. We're both people. I mean, we used to say, people, we all bleed red or whatever. Back in the civil rights movement in Memphis in 1968, they carried signs that said, I am a man. They didn't say I'm a black man. They didn't say I'm a white man. They didn't say I am a Korean man. They said I am a man, meaning that they're all the same. So I believe we have common ground. Well, so why don't we ditch that and try to start talking?
And so I guess the challenge, though, is that every single person in this room believes in this idea of elevating character and things you can change over the things you cannot change. But then, James, why is it that the people with all the money, the resources, the power, and the institutions are so quickly embracing this horrendous idea, one that is by definition insidious, that it's parasitic in nature? Why are the people that are trusted with basically governing our society, not just in politics, but in the corporate world, why are they so recklessly irresponsible with this?
You just said, right? Why are all the people with money and power and all the resources, why are they trying to get more of them by dividing everybody and keeping anybody else from being able to speak up? If you guys can't unify, if we can't unify, and I know unity is one of those words that they made poisonous, if we can't unify across our differences, you have some differences, who cares? If we can't unify, we can't win. They don't want you to unify. They want you to look at each other and say, well, it's weird if I'm friends with somebody of a different race. We have to interrogate our racial differences. It's weird to have a friendship across a sexual difference. It's weird to have a relationship across any difference. It's weird to have a relationship across a religious difference. It's weird, it's uncomfortable. You should be focusing on why you're different rather than why you're the same. If we can't unify, they're gonna beat us. And that, why? Because it's a divide and conquer strategy, and it works. And the people with power and all the money and all the things realize that this is a tool that they can use to divide us and to continue to collect more money, resources, and power to themselves and take us toward totalitarianism.
And do you really believe it's that sinister, James? Because, I mean, of course I do, but, you know, some people would call you a liberal, you'd call yourself a liberal. And just so you guys know, James is welcome at every Turning Point event we ever do, and we don't agree on everything. You know, I'm a Christian, James can describe his own beliefs in the metaphysics, but we get along really well, and we do things that matter together. And it's also because I think James is like one of the last people that is willing to have a conversation with people on the right. I can't find that person. You guys should all try to find it. If you find it, let me know. You can email us. But James, is it really that Machiavellian? Is it really that they're in the room and they're like, you know, Jeff Bezos, right, worth $165 billion. Is it conscious or subconsciously really as simple as, you know, I want to kind of create warring tribes amongst the people so I can go to Saturn or something. Is it really that?
I don't know Jeff
sinister?
Bezos' heart, so I can't talk about Jeff Bezos specifically.
Well, fill in the blank of any
ideology, and the people who are involved in this ideology are that sinister, the ideology itself is psychopathic. It is actually psychopathic. It is about dividing.
Why is it psychopathic?
Because all it cares about is winning the argument and gaining more power and manipulating the environment so that it can conform it to what it wants rather than what actually is. It's not interested in objective truth. It's interested in subjective ways of being that are able to divide and conquer and control people. That's why. It is. I don't know about Jeff Bezos. A lot of these people are very convinced. They believe in this like a faith. They're probably sincere. Most of them are probably good people who have taken up with a bad religion. However, the religion itself is evil.
Totally agree. Well, and I mean, I think they give religion a bad name. I mean, they believe this wokeism. You call it the Great Awakening, and I'll prove it to you. And James, you could fill in the blanks where I missed this out, right? They have shared almost quasi-religious experiences. They pay penance. They have a doctrine of beliefs. They excommunicate the non-believers. Right? What am I missing here? That they believe it uncompromisingly, right? They have a dogmatic belief in something that they can't see, right? I mean, how is that not a religious? In fact, I would argue that Christianity, by like an infinite margin, has far more evidence and reason-based arguments than this nonsensical critical race theory religion that we're seeing governing our country.
Well, speaking as somebody who is not a Christian, I would agree with that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yet this religious doctrine is now being implemented at almost every single level. So here's what I want to ask you. I think it'll be really interesting. So you have a doctorate in mathematics. And math, I believe, is a gift from God as a language for us to be able to understand and hopefully master the natural world against chaos. It's an amazing world once you start discovering it, of which I know very little. But math is centered around this idea of objective truth, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
There is no my truth of how many sides of a triangle there are.
That's right.
And so this idea of objectivity is one of the agreed upon attributes of Western society.
That's right.
We have now seen this theme of my truth, James. You don't know what it's like to be a black lesbian woman. Therefore, I must have a lot of power and you must sit down and shut up. Talk about the death of objectivity and how this all ties together.
So it's beyond even the death of objectivity, but we'll talk about that. It's the death of having things in common. It's the death of being able to find common ground or a common sensibility with which we can communicate with one another. The point of an objective view of the world is you may not agree with me about some fact about the world, but we agree about how we're going to go investigate it. We agree that there are methods that work better than others, okay? And so with math is objective. It is absolutely, it's literally logically true. There's no question about whether or not it's true. There's nothing to argue about. It is objectively the case. For example, the 2 + 2 = 4. That is the case. I know this is a controversial statement. In fact, I made it a controversial statement last year by trolling Nicole Hannah-Jones of the New York Times into making fun of me for saying 2 + 2 = 4, and then it blew up, and then you had the T.H. Chan School of Public Health at Harvard tweeting that 2 + 2 = 5 in the middle of a pandemic where half the country is afraid they're overcounting. How about that? So the goal is to break down our ability to talk to one another and understand one another, and the reason is because if we can't understand one another in a common language, we can be controlled by the people who get to set the subjective standards. That new subjective standard, that new sensibility that's replacing a common sensibility is called intersectionality, which means, in short, we can talk about what it means in the theory, blah, 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 but in short it means you have to think about who you are and how systemic power dynamics influence whether what you said matters or not, always in everything. It's think about who you are and be divided against one another constantly. And that's how you're made to think under this ideology. And the reason is we have no objective ground to stand on. We have no common ground that we can understand one another in. And that's total BS.
So you and I are going to explore this in kind of a backstage conversation in a podcast. So you guys should all subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast because we're going to go really deep into the roots of this German historicist. We're going to go do some Nietzsche. We're going to do all sorts of the stuff that will put some of you to sleep and some of you really excited. So please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. But what I do want to keep it kind of high up here, James, is what was stunning for me when I read your wonderful website, New Discourses, which is the best website on all of this woke garbage.
I can tell you that's true. I wrote most of it.
No, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's awesome. Say it again, Charlie.
Newdiscourses.com.
Thank you.
Yes. And it's kind of like the last liberals. It's really nice to see, actually, that comment on there. Is this idea, James, of believing, I couldn't really process this when I first saw it, was believing that science and math are racist. And so this is something that, by the way, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is funding.
True.
And this is something that young children are learning. You have a doctorate in mathematics. First of all, just tell us give the best argument that they can. Like Superman, their argument, right? Strongman, their argument. What is their best argument for why math is racist? Let's just do the thing like, James, you now have to defend the Nicole Hannah-Jones position and then tell us why it's wrong.
Okay. I'm sorry. So the reason is because math was, in their eyes, either stolen or created by white, Western, European people, men in particular, who wanted to gain mastery over the chaos of nature, but they did so in a way where they, without even necessarily realizing it in most cases, arranged affairs so that white, Western ways of thinking about things would be privileged because that would give white Western people who wanted to then colonize the world and enslave people the tools and the power to do so over others. And they never even bothered to consider that there might be other ways to do mathematics. They stole mathematics from the Egyptians. They stole mathematics from the Middle East. They stole mathematics when they got to the New World from the Aztecs and the Mayans. They stole it, and they just incorporated it into their worldview so that they could then subjugate those people using that power. And that, they say, hasn't gone away. That remnant of that original racism, which by the way is fake, that remnant of the original racism is still there, and it's still used to subjugate. This is why it's racist against races that aren't white. Learning mathematics rigorously is positioned as a white position that upholds white power, and therefore it's expected that black people and brown people, whatever brown means, are not able to learn math without having to succumb to a white power structure first and sell out who they really are. in terms of their identity. That's why they think it's racist, which is patently insane. I don't even think I have to tell you why that's wrong. It's the stupidest thing ever.
So can you tell us why it's wrong? No, so, I mean,
yes, I can.
No,
because
I mean,
it turns out the
because
mathematics
I
is
see
built
some
on
parents'
axiomatic
jaws
systems.
literally on the ground right now. But just so you know, that at some colleges and a lot of grade schools, this is what you're paying for, parents. This is the future that we have created for our children because of our lack of involvement. Are we exaggerating at all, James?
So let me tell you a story. I was flying out to LA a few weeks ago actually to speak in Rob McCoy's church, right? So I'm flying. Yeah, it was great. And I got to sit up in a pulpit. First time I ever got to do that. It was like I felt like, Fox in the hen house or something. No, I'm just kidding. It was excellent. So I was flying out there, though, and I'm reading this book, a handbook on critical race theory and education on the plane. What a wonderful read. And I finally hit my limit. I'm reading this essay by this guy, Daniel Solorzano, who's one of the biggest critical race theory and education people from back in the day. And he has this essay, and he's talking about how he got this email where this lady sends in, I think it's a woman, sends in this email saying, oh my gosh, this thing you published helped me so much with mathematics. I was trying to teach, I'm sorry, we're going to go math. I was trying to teach the coordinate axis, the XY thing. And my students always struggle with the coordinate plane. I was trying to teach it to them. And then I showed them, well, if we put on the vertical axis commitment to social justice, and we put on the horizontal axis, commitment to objective truth, or something like this, then blah, blah, blah. And they turned the entire teaching of basic XY plane functions in mathematics, Algebra 1, into a social justice lesson about how committed you are to social justice and how much it was commitment to change the world or something like that. The point of studying things is to change the world, obviously, said Marx.
So that's just one example.
That's what's happening in math classes.
But we'll
math!
And
just solve for X.
And so James, I think there is something to this. We're going to go a little bit over time because I think this is so important, which is there something to this that it's so absurd so people think they're dumb because they don't get it because it's so absurd? Is there like an intimidating factor to this? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, actually, I think so. So I actually do believe that part of what it does is it makes you lose your footing in the world. It makes you not know who you are. And this is a very important message, if I might divert a little bit from the direct. I think that they do try to make people feel stupid, like you can't possibly understand this. But this is what I know we're going to get to it eventually, but this is what you have to do. So if I were going to give you guys some advice, there are a couple things I want to say. One is that you need to realize the period of history that you live in. You live in a period in history that's going to be one of those things, if we get through it, that people study in depth in 100 years. That's you now, and you need to rise to the challenge. But what you need to do to rise to the challenge is you need to get, I'm sorry, I know this is one of those moments like, how do you do, fellow kids, from the old guy, but you need to get based. You need to get based. You need to know who you are. You need to know who you are spiritually. You need to know who you are mentally. You need to know who you are emotionally. You need to know who you are becoming professionally by going out and taking on challenges and taking risks and learning about yourself, learning about subjects that matter, learning to solve for X if it's math, actually learning rigorous things, building a foundation for yourselves, and getting ready, because you are in a situation right now where by design, whether it's with math, these absurd arguments, whether it's with all the stuff with sex and gender and sexuality where they're literally trying to groom young people into not being able to figure out who they are as they go through puberty, you are in a situation where your identity itself is being undermined on purpose, because if you don't know who you are, they can control you. They can tell you who you will be. And that's why these arguments are so absurd, is because if you can't figure out the real world, if you can't connect to reality, if you can't connect to objective truth, if you can't get your feet under you and get based, they can push you and throw you around. I used to do jujitsu. I don't do jujitsu anymore. You have to have base to not get swept. You don't want to get on your head. You don't want to get flipped over. You don't want that guy to mount you and punch you in the face. You have to have base. You got to get based, or they're going to be able to throw you around. And that's what they want to do. They want to put you in a place where you can't figure out who you are, you can't figure out what you believe, you don't know why you believe it, and you aren't competent enough to be able to figure it out because they've brainwashed you and programmed you to not be able to think for yourself or to attach to reality. And the only way out is to do the opposite, is to get based, get attached to reality, get to know yourself, whether, like I said, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of it. You got to get to know yourself.
That is phenomenal advice. And so, James, I want to now just get to the most practical. Here's the good news of our conversation. Is critical race theory popular?
No. It's not popular in any demographic, it turns out. There was a recent poll done, and I forgot which poll it was done. It doesn't reach a majority in any significant demographic. Not a majority even in Democrats of color. It is not popular. It is that 85% of this population, once they understand and see what it is, hate it. They don't just not like it. They don't just think it's weird. They hate it. They viscerally recognize the racism in it. They viscerally recognize that it's not real and it's absurd. They viscerally recognize that it is manipulative and divisive and hurtful. It is not popular. And the more, this is the really good news. It's actually very simple. The more people who learn what it really is, the fewer people like it. All you have to do is tell people what it is. Show them what it is. Read from their books. And people just red pill like crazy.
And James, that's why we're sitting on this cultural volcano, and we are going to win. So you have all these elites that are now by force implementing something that's incredibly unpopular. That does not work well in human history. We have lots of examples of people in charge that try to force feed a population of things that are very unpopular. And it might be popular amongst their own social circle, but that's why you're seeing the school board uprising. That's why you're seeing the people going up against this in record numbers. And James, that's why you've seen your book explode the way it has.
That's right. Look, it's very simple, though. It's very simple. This country used to be racist. We're not going back. That's it. That's why people hate it.
And the other side wishes to keep us in that place where they can control us and make us obey. Okay, last point, James. On these college campuses, they are going to be confronted with arguments from authority. You are or were a college professor until, all this fun stuff started. What are they supposed to do? Our Turning Point USA students on college campuses, where it always comes down to this. I'm the professor, you're the student, I know, you're wrong, sit down and shut up. How are they supposed to handle that?
It's hard to go up against a machine. I don't want to give you bad news. So it depends on, you're going to have to make a choice. Is that argument worth it for that class? Is that argument worth it for your degree? Do you want that degree? Is this degree going to matter if I have to lie to get it? So you're going to have to make those kinds of decisions. But what you need to be doing, you're not going to fight your professor and win. You're not. What you need to be doing is talking to other students. You need to be talking to other students. You need to connect with the faculty members who are quietly and secretly based. And you need to start making borderline secret societies. Turning Point's not so secret. But you need to start making borderline secret societies and telling people. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. All this stuff, I don't quite believe it. I had somebody talk to me about the pronoun thing recently, a very tender-hearted, liberal young woman talking to me, and she says, I'm the most trans-accepting, I know this is different from race, but I'm the most trans-accepting, I'm the most gay-accepting, etc. person, and I'll do the whole pronoun thing, but not those new ones, not those neo-pronouns, they call them, z, zer, her. I won't do it.
Neo-pronouns?
That's what they call them. So if you start to draw the line, I'm totally skeptical of this. I guarantee you half the students that you're around aren't willing to admit that they're skeptical too. And when they hear somebody say it, courage begets courage, but also cowardice begets cowardice. So if you're afraid, they'll be afraid. If you're brave, they'll be brave with you.
And James, what do they do, though, when they get called a racist? What do they do? Because it puts people in paralysis.
Clown life. Just call them clowns. Just ignore it. Laugh at it. Joke at it. Yeah, what isn't? Whatever. It's a complete bogus accusation at this point, and everybody who knows it. And if you just don't go with it, that's you being brave. That's it.
Do not comply to the accusations or the labels that they throw on you. So Dr. Lindsey and I are now going to head to the podcast room and go even further and deeper. So if you guys want to hear that, you could subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast on all of your app. And I just want to say thank you for what you've done. It's taken real courage, real bravery, and our country's better for it. It really is, because we need more people to speak out against this. Thank you guys so much, and please thank Dr. Lindsey.
Thank you. I love the work that Charlie Kirk and Turning Point is doing today to, promote conservatism. I'm blessed to be here. For people that don't know me, you're wondering why a farmer, a guy that owns a grocery store is up here. I can tell you that from the very beginning, we knew this whole pandemic thing was nonsense. We've been, out in front of it. I talked to, called Senator Rick Scott early on, more than a year and 3 months ago, and asked him to call Donald Trump and let him know that this is a play, that we're being played here, that this is nonsense. And the path that it's brought me on has been incredible. I've spent so much time with so many amazing people, with Charlie Kirk, Mike Lindell, General Flynn, spent countless hours with all of them fighting this fight. General Flynn told me that even in the revolution, there was just a small amount of men that stood up, and then only 3% of the people followed, and that's what changed the course to allow us to have this great United States here. I'd like to show you a little video. If you don't know me, this will kind of give you a little idea of what we've been doing. Roll number 1 here.
World have their eyes on Southwest Florida tonight, probably looking at their iPads or their phones or computers. It's all over a single national news story out of Collier County that's gone viral. And at the center of it is the owner of Seed to Table Market, who spoke with one of the most watched morning shows in America. This story on the Today Show presented Alfie Oakes with something he seldom turns down, a spotlight to call COVID-19 a hoax. But it was this part of the story, a short video of maskless employees and customers in close contact in his market, that made the report go viral. More than 3 million views in one day, and a crush of social media comments, many saying they were horrified at what they saw. But in Alfie Oakes' world, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
I'm happy about the national attention because...
And he pointed to his packed parking lot after the story aired as affirmation he's not the only one to blow off masks as a way to minimize risk of spreading COVID-19, despite a mountain of scientific evidence and a staggering worldwide death toll.
I've never had more people come out and show their love for me, and the people are speaking right now.
The city of Naples speaking out too amidst all the publicity, sending out this press release clarifying the market is not within city limits and not subject to its mask mandate. The county has one too, but Oakes claims he's not worried about it.
We've never required our customers to wear a mask.
If you look at his business's Facebook page, you can see the market isn't just crowded with folks not wearing masks during regular business hours. It's been hosting parties for months. And he shrugs off medical advice that says scenes like these at Seed to Table are really seeds of super spreader events.
Believe me, if our customers were dying here, we wouldn't be doing it. The same customers that have been coming and partying and hanging out from the last year, we never stopped. if even one of them ever died, we would stop doing it. But it's just not happening.
Now it looks like his customers have no intention of stopping what they're doing either, even though the state health department says our 5-county region of Southwest Florida has now seen more than 100,000 cases of the virus, and more than 1,600 people have died from COVID-19. Oaks also told us that Florida Senator and fellow Collier County resident Rick Scott is a friend who about a year ago put him in touch with a top disease doctor who told Oaks the COVID-19 threat was real. Oaks says he listened to the expert for about an hour before concluding it was not. Oaks has a history of provocative and often unproven claims about some of the biggest issues of the day besides COVID. He's repeatedly attacked the people who are part of the social justice movements online, movements like Black Lives Matter. And last month, he funded this trip of a group of Southwest Floridians to go to the Trump rally in D.C. that called for overturning the results of the presidential election.
So that's it. That's a few minutes to let you know what we've been doing. I've been at the school board meetings fighting against critical race theory, against the mask. We have 3,200 employees. Not one person has died. Very few have been sick. 8,000 people a day coming through our store. And because we've been breathing freely, we've been eating healthy, we've been getting plenty of sunshine. I'm going to try to break my segment up into talking a little bit about health. Charlie wanted me to talk to you guys about health. But we know, I'm not saying I'm not a denier of the COVID virus. I'm denier of what we did, the lockdowns. We never locked down at all, and we're one of the most healthy places in the whole world. And I asked Father Fauci to come to our store and see what we were doing right, because we never shut down. We always continued to live our lives and love each other. And I wish that the country could be a microcosm of what our business is, because I have all ethnicities working for me. I even have an all-organic grocery store called Food and Thought we have a lot of liberals live there, and we love everyone that work there, rather, and we love all of them. I come in and I hug them all and love them just the same, and that's the way that that's the United States that I grew up in, where we all respect each other's differences. I'm going to show you one more little clip, roll number 2 there. All Americans. I found out recently that to say all lives matter is now a bad comment, but I believe that Black lives matter, all lives matter. And I love everyone in our company, loves each other. We got 2,300 people of all different ethnicities, and we all work together with love. And I'm just asking that the whole country will get together and work the same way. Freedom of speech. Thank you. Freedom of speech. God bless America. So that young lady that you saw, at the very end that was looking up to me, that's my daughter. Hannah, would you stand up? This is my daughter, Hannah Oaks. Now the reason I want her to stand up is I came out against the COVID-19, but we also came out against Black Lives Matter. And guess what? As soon as we came out against Black Lives Matter, we lost $80 million worth of contracts. I came out with a post on Sunday. By Wednesday, we lost the contracts, and my daughter was getting death threats. She was getting pictures put up on social media all over that said racist. She'd never been called a racist in her life. I'd never been called a racist in my life. But I came out against the insanity of what the BLM stood for, and this was very early in the game. Now, someone would think that that's maybe a bad thing. I can tell you right now, standing here today, almost a year later, more than a year later, the best thing that ever happened. Black Lives did what it did to Hannah was amazing. I came home that night, that Wednesday night, after they came out and were making these threats against our family, against my daughter, my youngest daughter. I have 3 children. And I came home around 11 o'clock at night. Hannah's at the top of the steps, and she's crying. She says, Daddy, why did you do this to our family? Why are you doing this to me? And at that point, that's what they try to do. They try to weaken you. And I said, I'm not going to, before she got to the bottom of the steps, I knew that I had to explain to her why I had to take that position and why we had to take this position. Our founding fathers gave everything for us. We have to stand strong. When she got to the bottom of the steps, if you haven't ever watched it, go on YouTube and watch Paul Harvey on the founding fathers. If you have never watched it, it's amazing. We watched that night. And what that did to Hannah, believe it or not, Hannah was thinking about going to New York to go to college. She was in 11th grade at that time for fashion. And I was terrified of that. But what it did is it galvanized her. She realized that she had to go back to school and stand up for herself. And it turned her into the strongest, much, much better person than it had ever been if it didn't happen. So Black Lives did her a great service, and I'm happy for Black Lives Matter for everything that they did. What's been happening over the last maybe 50, 60 years as the globalists, whatever you want to call them, you can call them the swamp, the New World Order, the globalists, all of that. They've been trying to poison our minds. They're poisoning our minds through the TVs. We stopped watching TV. But they've also been trying to poison us through food. And I'm going to spend the last part. Charlie asked me to be the ambassador of healthy eating for Turning Point and to talk a little bit about food. Now, I'm a farmer. I grow about 3,000 acres. We bring in hundreds of items a day into our store that were picked that day. There's huge health benefits if you can get out and you can find local things to eat that were picked that day. Rutgers did a study that said that if you eat an apple off a tree, it's got electric living energy in it. And that if you, one day later, it's got half as much, and 5 days later, it's got half as much again. And that, if you get a controlled atmosphere apple that's in Walmart that's 6 months old, you'd have to eat 500 of them to get the same energy into your body. And science doesn't really take that into account. So to eat fresh local things are really important. But worse than that, the corporations have been really, like, they're dumbing down, education. They've been dumbing down our food. They've been genetically modifying the food intentionally to make people sick so that they end up needing to take more pharmaceuticals. And I'll go through it real quick. Back when you probably remember Tim McVeigh in Oklahoma, well, they changed the fertilizer analysis. Maybe that was even done intentional, or they just never let a good crisis go to waste. But we changed a lot of the fertilizer that's used around this country to a chemical-based fertilizer with not a lot of nitrates in it. And what happened is the farmers start growing all the product that most of us eat here. If you're not eating really, really good organic product or being mindful of what you put in your body, like 99% of the flour in this country is poison. That's why there's so many people that are gluten intolerant. Our great-grandparents weren't gluten intolerant. It's not because they were better built than we were. It's because it wasn't the Franken wheat that we're eating right now. So that's the problem. But what they've been doing is they made this fertilizer first. They had to start there to grow a sick plant. So then the sick plant, guess what? Needs to be sprayed. You need to use poisons, the farmers, because you're growing an unhealthy plant. It's like eating unhealthy every day, then you become sick. Well, they do this to the plant. And then the plant is also, because of the seeds they use, is devoid of the nutrition. And then in the masses, we eat this food that's devoid of the nutrition, and then we are ill. We're missing minerals. We're missing everything we need to keep us healthy. And then guess who comes to the rescue? The pharmaceutical comes to the rescue to give you some pills to make it better. Well, Bayer owns Monsanto. They're the ones selling the fertilizer that makes the crop sick. They're the ones that sells the spray material that they now have to sell much more to the farms because they're growing a sick plant. And then they grow the sick food that they give to you that gets you sick, and then they sell you the drugs at the end. It's a great, proposition for them. And in the old days, when they would take socialism and they would when they brought socialism into Cuba, when they brought it into Russia, they would go and just kill the farmers. They would just go and put a bullet in the farmers' heads, and that's how they disrupt the food supply. It was easier then. I mean, I guess thank God they're not doing that now, but they're doing the same thing. They're ruining our food supply, and you got to be mindful of what you're putting in your body. The biggest problems really that I see are the flour because it's so bad. Unless you can get a really whole grain organic flour, it's gut health. Overall gut health is very important. I drink a drink called the Doctor. We make them, all my employees. And another thing, at our store, a lot of our employees drink the Doctor. There's a few girls that work in the juice bar out here in the audience. We got some people here from, and they know that I drink at least 2 of them every day. Now, I haven't ever missed a day of work ever in my life. I never get sick. My 3 kids had perfect attendance. They didn't take vaccines. And I can tell you that a healthy immune system is all you need to combat this. And when I talked to that epidemiologist for an hour and 45 minutes back a year and 3 months ago, everything he told me was correct. He said, if you have a strong immune system, you'll likely not ever know that you even had the COVID virus. He said, it is going to be very bad for the people that are, have health conditions, that are very obese, older people. He said, that segment's going to get it. But this epidemiologist I talked to with Rick Scott for an hour and 45 minutes was one of the leading epidemiologists in the world that consulted for the military SARS virus. And that's why I was so empowered to come out against this, because I knew the truth right from the beginning. We need to stand bold. This is a very, very crucial time. This is a crucial time. And if we don't stand strong and we don't speak the truth, then there's little hope for us to save our country. I want to read this. I wasn't going to read this because I've been speaking mostly to a lot of businessmen and older groups, and I thought this might not be relevant, but I thought of it in a different context today. This was written by Ronald Reagan. But it was written by Ronald Reagan in 1964. And to give you some context of that, in 1964, my great-grandparents were the same age that I am now. And I didn't really think about that until last night. So Ronald Reagan said, that you and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We will preserve for our children this, the last and best hope of man on earth, or we will sentence them to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness. If we fail, at least let our children and our children's children say of us that we justified our brief moment here. We did all that could be done. We did all that could be done. So we got to do all that can be done. And he was doing that for me. I wasn't even born yet. So he was fighting this fight. This fight's been going on for a long time. This didn't just start. It's escalated to another level right now. I assure you that. But this fight has been going on from the people that have been trying to control us. And they've been trying to control us with all this propaganda, but also what poison our food supply. We watch in the schools with this critical race theory where they're trying to not just steal the election. They're not just trying to steal money. They're trying to steal the hearts and souls from the children in our schools. And I loved this last segment that Charlie did. It was about standing up for the schools. I want to go ahead and roll number 3, the third video. This is fighting in the school boards here.
I would like to say that we cannot trust this disgraceful publisher that openly aligns themselves with BLM and BLM influencers. Letter from Jack Lynch that claims CRT is not embedded is pure lip service, and he didn't even come close to meeting the demands that we asked. I find it hard to believe that you can't see through this. So then I'm forced to ask myself, are you really that ignorant? Or have you been compromised? Several of you have PhDs. And you're telling me that you can't discern and recognize that this material has been clearly and strategically written and constructed with countless undertones to divide our children into classes and colors instead of unifying them as Americans. Many teachers called me after the last time I stood up here and thanked me for taking this stand. They don't believe in this garbage. And guess what? Your constituents don't believe in this garbage, because how many people have we had here today coming in favor of the books? None. Let me give you a little lesson here, the way this is supposed to work. We the people elect you. You represent the will of we the people, the school board members. And then you push that will onto the superintendent. The way it's working is exactly ass backwards. Councilman Patton's telling you guys what to do, and you are going against the will of the people. Think about that. There's a reason that we elect you. It's so simple. But that's not what's happening here. Now, there's a lot of other options. There's a lot of other ways to go. And I asked myself why we're going to spend $6 million on this trash. It's all going to change. We the people are not allowing this to happen. Like I said before, we're mad. We're mad at ourselves for allowing weak people that are going to be controlled by Councilman Patton instead of doing what you're elected to do. When you took a constitution, which you've signed, when you took this position, you took an oath to uphold the Constitution
Sir, if you
of the United
could
States.
focus on the letters as you began.
You work for me. Don't tell me what to do.
I don't work for you.
Yes, you do. You work for we the people. Yes, you do.
Sir, please
no,
speak.
you
Mr.
work for
Oaks.
we the people.
Sir, Mr. Oaks.
No, I want my time back. I want my time back.
No, speak to the letters.
Be quiet.
Speak to the letters.
You be quiet.
Mr. Oaks, would you
You
please just
be
stick to
quiet.
the letter?
You work for us. I'm only going to say that. And it's time we're going to, I know the teachers unions are what's forcing your hand here, but we're going to make a difference here in this next election.
There's more people awake now than ever before. We're watching it across the country. I'm out of time here, but we have to stand up. We have to hold our politicians accountable. It's time to hold us accountable. God bless you guys. Keep fighting the good fight. God bless America.
What is going on, Turning Point USA? How y'all doing? Good, good, good. So the first thing that I have to say is that Joe Biden's America sucks. Okay? Joe Biden's America sucks. The gas is high, my groceries are expensive, everything is crazy. But if I have to exist in Joe Biden's America, I would not want to do it anywhere else than in the great state of Florida. And I have to tell you, I have been in Florida for about 15 months now. It is fantastic. I walk around and I'm like, man, I live where people vacation. Like, I live where people come to have a good time, and it can be too much of a good time sometimes, I'll tell you, but it is a fantastic state. And I want them to kind of like build the wall around Florida. Like, I just want, build the wall. Build it on the southern border, absolutely, but build it around Florida so that we don't have leftists coming here and destroying what DeSantis and all of these other people have built. So I'm going to break some news for you. And it's going to sound crazy, but I'm going to break some news for you. I think that a lot of people don't understand because we're living in Joe Biden's America and Joe Biden sucks. He's probably napping right now. So he sucks and Kamala sucks and everything is so weird, but there's something going on at the grassroots level. There's something going on in the conversations that people are having. And I'm telling you, I believe that we are starting to change hearts and minds as conservatives, as freedom-loving people, as capitalism-loving people. I do believe that we are starting to change hearts and minds. And I'm going to tell you a story, and this is a personal story, and my sister would not mind this. So when Joe Biden was elected in November, My sister, who is the biggest Democrat ever, she had Kamala Harris face masks and she did all that stuff. She called me gloating. She said, aha, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won, ha. And I said, okay. I'm just gonna take this all in, and I hope that this works out for you. This is what I told her. Literally 6 months later, this is probably about 3 months ago, she called me and she said, oh my God, I ain't never voting for this crap again. She said she is never voting for this again because, and this is what I said before when I was talking in 2020, and I said, we have to make sure that Joe Biden doesn't get elected. That obviously didn't happen, but I knew that even should Joe Biden get in office, this was the opportunity to throw out red pills to the level that people have not experienced before, because what is going on right now is that people are seeing the results of these policies. Joe Biden and all of those people, they were supposed to calm everybody down. Everything was supposed to get boring and sane again. No, the left is more insane than ever, and it is turning people off. It is bringing people over to our side. I am telling you that we're winning. It may not seem like we're winning, but we're winning. I'm telling you. I feel it. And so as conservatives, there's a lot of things that we have to do, but we have to start talking about culture, and we have to start talking about the culture that we are creating as conservatives, as right-leaning people. And I'm not talking about specifically pop culture. I'm talking about the culture of who we are and what do we believe in. Do we believe in capitalism? Do we believe in entrepreneurship? Are we pro-America? Are we all of these different things? Because what's going on right now is a psyop. What you are seeing from the mainstream media and what you're seeing from the left and what you're seeing from all of these people is a psyop because they know these policies suck. They know inflation is happening. They know gas prices are higher. They know that the world laughs at us right now. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. They know this. And so instead of just being real, saying that they're losers and they're failing, which they very much are, they are pushing things in culture that are just not good because they don't want you to look at everything that's going on. So when I talk about conservatism, I'm going to talk about what our culture is, what is it? And I think one of the more important things, honestly, is building a culture of loving capitalism and loving entrepreneurship, loving building things, right? Because what is being pushed right now by the left, what is being pushed right now by Joe Biden and these people in charge is a culture of dependency. It is a culture of however many trillion dollar stimulus checks. And I know that a lot of you are younger and in college and you don't get that because maybe you're not paying taxes yet, but one day you will, okay? You will. And so we're creating a culture in which people are making money to stay home. We're creating a culture in which people do not want to work. I see it here in Florida. You probably see it from wherever you've come from. There are people that are they are rolling out the red carpet trying to hire people. They are offering bonuses to go to IHOP and Bento Box and restaurants and all of these different things. There are waiters and waitresses that are short-staffed, right? Because nobody wants to work. And so you have to understand when you talk about culture, there is a culture of dependency being created right now by the left. People are getting used to this kind of stuff. And it is very dangerous in a place as free as America, in a place that is built on capitalism and entrepreneurship and the idea that anybody can be anything that they want to be. This stuff is dangerous because what we're seeing right now, guys, we talk so much about socialism and we talk so much about being anti-socialism. When you look at what is going on in Cuba right now, you are seeing the results of what happens when communism and socialism are allowed to take over. You are seeing medical shortages. You are seeing people rising up against the communist dictatorship. You are seeing people that are not having enough food to eat. So all of this stuff is going on right before our eyes. We are living through a lot of history right now. And what you have to connect that to, the things that are going on right now is you have to connect it to the policies and the things that people are pushing right here in America, because literally what is being pushed? Free college, free healthcare, free this, free that. There are cities in this country right now that are doing universal basic income, UBI. And that means that you don't have to get up, you don't have to go to work, you don't have to create anything, you don't have to do anything, but Uncle Sam and Government Daddy will send you a check. So that is the culture that is being created by the left right now. And I think that as conservative-leaning people, as people that are on the right, when you go out to your college campuses, and I know that there are adults in the room, when you go back out to your jobs or your workforces or anything like that, you have to understand that this is the culture that we're fighting against right now. See, we spent a lot of time between 2016 and 2020 basically, defending Trump against the mainstream media and the deep state and whatever you want to call it, right? We spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of time, you see me do my Fox News hits. Does anybody subscribe to the podcast, Rob Smith is Problematic? Anybody? Yes? Yes? All right. If you do not subscribe to Rob Smith is Problematic, open up, subscribe to that right now. But I spent a lot of time defending President Trump against lies because these were lies. But right now, what we have to do is we have to open people's eyes to exactly what is going on right now. We have to open people's eyes to the culture of dependency that is being pushed by the left. And there is a culture of separatism that is being pushed on the left right now. Now, I got a chance to watch your previous speaker speaking. It was amazing. He talked about Black Lives Matter. He talked about BLM, right? So we saw BLM sort of like take control of the narrative last summer. We saw that movement basically being used by Democrats, and we saw the craziness. I went out personally to Minneapolis and saw the destruction on those streets. And we all saw via social media, via some news outlets, we saw the destruction that a lot of those quote unquote protests have caused, right? But we're in the next phase of what they're doing right now. And when I talk about the left pushing separatism, I talk about this critical race theory stuff that's being pushed by the left right now. And so the idea behind that is they'll say that it's about, talking about diversity. They'll say it's about understanding one another. They'll say it's about understanding black people or Latino or whatever. But what it is it's really divisiveness, and this is really a part of an agenda that is being used to usher in socialism into the United States of America. And I truly, truly believe that. And I've got a little mea culpa to make. If you follow any of my social media platforms, or maybe you've unfollowed me, there's a lot of people that didn't like a lot of the things that I had to say over the past couple of months, which is whatever, it's your right. But Juneteenth happened. So Juneteenth is our new federal holiday, and it's the Juneteenth, and it's about, I think it was when the last slaves found out that they were free, and it was a Texas thing, and now it's a national holiday. This is something that Trump had promoted. I was behind it. This is part of American history. And now there's Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is the quote-unquote black national anthem. And I defended these things because they were a part of American history, right? And there were a lot of other influencers and a lot of political commentators that were like, no, this is bad, this is bad. And I was kind of like pushing back against that. But now I am starting to see how these things are being used to push division. And I am telling you, as soon as I'm standing here on this stage today, within 10 years, the BLM Inc. organization will have taken over Juneteenth. And they will try to be making that quote unquote Black Independence Day. Now you've got the MLB going woke, and now they're singing Lift Every Voice and Sing before the national anthem at the MLB games. And I have a message to the MLB. There is only one national anthem. All right? There's only one. There's a black national anthem, a Latino national anthem, a freaking Asian national anthem again. No, there's one national anthem. And that national anthem is for everyone, but you have to understand how these people operate. Democrats and the left can only be in power, and they can only come into power if they slice and dice Americans and people that are living in this country, if they slice and dice us into smaller and smaller and smaller groups, and they say, black people over here, and Asians over here, and these people over here, and these people over there, and that is how they separate America. That is how they separate Americans. And when we talk about conservative culture, and we talk about what it is that we're actually doing in the movement and what it is that we're actually doing for America, it needs to be our job to make sure that we are bringing everybody together and we let them know that our values are transferable. It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter any of that other stuff. You can love America. And if you add that to what people are experiencing right now with these bad policies, what they're experiencing right now with the border crisis, what they're experiencing right now with this inflation, with these gas prices, with all of that other stuff, they will realize that the conservative party, the Republican Party, that the conservative movement is the big tent party. This is where people are able to come together regardless of skin color or any of that other stuff. And we're able to come together because we're able to love America. And we're able to say that this place that we live in right now, though imperfect, we will all work to create a more perfect union. That is what the Founding Fathers wanted. And the people on the left would have you believe that as America, and as Americans, we are fundamentally flawed. The amount of hatred for America, the amount of hatred for fellow Americans that come from the left really does sicken me. It really does make me sick to my stomach because I think that people do not realize where this all goes. And so when I make my mea culpa about the fact that I was wrong about Juneteenth and I was wrong about Lift Every Voice and Sing and all that stuff, it's because some of these people may have had a little bit more foresight than I did. Maybe some of these people saw a lot of this stuff coming a mile away. Now, I'm good at some stuff when it comes to identifying the left's plan because, I used to be a liberal. I used to be on the left. I know exactly how they think. And as you all know, 3 years ago, I was like, these people are crazy. I was like, these people are nuts. These people are absolutely nuts. And so you have these people that rail against capitalism and rail against entrepreneurship for $15,000 a speech. Oh, they hate capitalism, but they're going to make sure that check is clear before they show up on stage. Right? They hate America, but you can't get them to leave. You literally cannot get them to leave. You can't pay these people to leave. But they hate America so much. And so when we talk about our culture, when we talk about the things that we are pushing forward as a conservative movement, we need to start thinking more about that. We need to start thinking more about how we think about entrepreneurship. And I know that so many of you younger people want to become political commentators and you want to be on stages like this and maybe you want to do cable news and all that other stuff. And that's great. Like, if that's your dream, go for it. But in this movement, we need so much more. There are people starting conservative-oriented production companies. We need to get you guys, in businesses, on the school boards, running for mayor, running for local things. Because if you see all of the stuff that is happening, anti-CRT, all across the country, this is people that are standing up in their own backyards and saying enough is enough. And a lot of you guys that are coming here, it's the summer right now, you are going back on your campuses this fall, and I hope to see you guys out there this fall on your college campuses. You have to fight that battle there as well, because I know how hard it is for you. I know that for every Turning Point USA on these campuses across the country, there are about 25 different leftist organizations. Because any organization that is not explicitly conservative will eventually become a leftist organization. The African American student groups, the Latino student groups, all of these, like the vegan student groups, all of that stuff, they just all become rabid leftists. So it's up to you as leaders of these chapters, as members of these chapters, to go out and to give people their view of what the conservative culture is. So what is it? Are you being pro-America? Are you talking about how capitalism is an infinitely better system than communism and socialism, which, by the way, and I don't care what AOC and I don't care what Bernie Sanders and I don't care what any of these people say, communism has failed everywhere it has been tried. All right? And this is not just the idea that, oh, they didn't do it right. No, they did it the exact way they were supposed to do it, and it still failed. And you know why? Because it just doesn't work. So let me tell you something before I wrap up. There is a culture war going on. It is nonstop. It is never ending because these people have every lever of power that you can possibly have in society. These people have the mainstream media. These people have the entertainment media. These people have the White House, the Congress, and the Senate. And do you know what? They are still angry. They still want even more control. And people that have everything and get angrier the more power that they get, that leads me to believe that their power should be taken away. And before I go, I'm going to tell you this. We have got, and we are heading into a 10-year period that is absolutely crucial to the future of this country. And everybody has a role to play in this next 10 years. If you let these people continue on, they will destroy this country. They will create a generation of people that hate America. They will create a generation of people that just want to be divided and want to be separate and want to have their own national anthems and want to have their own this or their own that. But what we need to do as a conservative movement, as people that are right-leaning, as people that are coming together to save this country from the destruction of the left, what we need to do is to stand up, make our voices heard, and make your presence felt, whether it's on your college campus, whether it's in your town, whether it's in your city, whether it's in your school board. It is up to every single person out here, as well as me and everybody that you have seen on this stage, to save America for the next generation. So take this with you wherever you go to your college campuses, because I'm going to tell you, America needs you. Thank you, Turning Point USA. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I was eyeballing it all.
What got to me the most is how mean and vicious they were.
While the mob was chanting no violence, they were pushing and assaulting those who wanted access to the event.
College campuses are not free speech areas. You understand? Obviously you don't understand.
It was shocking to have a university professor tell us that we weren't allowed to have those free speech rights.
I never imagined that,
Hey everybody, we are at a critical time in our country, and Turning Point USA, we are at the front lines of what's happening in the American culture war. We are on pace to have 1,000 high school chapters by the end of this year. We have events with thousands and thousands of students, including right now, in the very room that this event, the Student Action Summit, is happening. We had our Young Women's Leadership Summit with 2,500 young conservative women leaders from across the country. We have a school board watch list project coming out in August. We have our professor watch list project. We have our China on Campus project. We are doing the most ambitious campus tour in the entire country, where I personally go and visit these college campuses, but we need your help. And every single gift you give right now is matched dollar for dollar. That's right, dollar for dollar. All you have to do is go to TPUSA.com. That's TPUSA.com. Hit the donate tab. It's hard to miss. and give what you can. Every dollar is matched dollar for dollar. And we here at Turning Point USA, we have 165 full-time people on our staff in the field that are doing the work of organizing groups, of getting students trained and activated to be able to take back our country. If you're worried about our educational system, if you're worried about the future of America, then please back us up if you can. Give us the tools and the resources we need to keep growing. We are going to be hiring another 28 people just in August in just one project in particular, and 30 other people just to work on college campus type work. And you guys can help us at TPUSA.com. That's TPUSA.com. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for backing us. Remember, your gift is matched dollar for dollar at TPUSA.com.
Hey, I'm Alex Clark, the host of Politics, the first ever daily show that Turning Point USA ever created, and I target young women with pop culture from a conservative perspective. To support shows like mine, please go to tpusa.com/donate.
In advance before you go out and do this. Well, men and women, the First Amendment is the only permission you need to speak on your campus. So she contacted us, we sued the university, and during that suit, the Arkansas legislature had said they'd had enough. And so they passed legislation that protected not only her right to speak, but the rights for all students at public universities in Arkansas. And that's just one example of what one person standing up for their rights can accomplish. And you think back, the value of free speech has been essential to our constitutional republic. The founders put the First Amendment first because they understood the value of speaking truth to power and debating ideas. Think back through our great moments in history, the abolition of slavery, women's suffrage, the civil rights movement. That was all possible because of free speech. But now we are seeing a culture, and a university culture in particular, that is increasingly hostile towards your views and increasingly opposed to debating these ideas. Universities are becoming an assembly line for one type of thought. They're trying to push your ideas out of the marketplace. They're telling you what you can say, what you can't say, where you can say it. They're discriminating against your groups because of your political and religious views. And increasingly, we're seeing students like Jack Denton, who serve in leadership positions in the student government, exercising their First Amendment rights, and they're being discriminated against for that. All of this is unconstitutional, all of it is unlawful, and none of it is good for our republic. And so what should you do? Know your rights, exercise your rights, and when necessary, defend your rights. And that's why I'm so thankful for students like you all who are so excited, who are not ashamed of your ideas, and who go out and change the culture. You're changing the culture one campus at a time, one chapter at a time, one event and one conversation at a time. But in the face of a culture that's increasingly hostile towards your ideas, it is so important to know what your rights are and to be able to defend those rights. And that's where ADF can come in. If you want to learn more, go to our website, adflegal.org. Find us on social media. Please come see us at our booth before you go. And if you need to talk to an attorney because you think your rights are being violated, go onto our website or give us a call. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. We got a great conversation in store here. Take a seat. And hello to everyone watching on the live stream and all other places. We are.
My name is misspelled.
It's not Matt Taxes, Eric?
Yeah, the way my father spells it, and really he's the one I go by, it's Metaxas. But I just feel like not having Kirk in my surname, I just feel like that's good enough. You know who I am.
That disqualifies you from being on the stage here. And then, of course, Chris Buskirk, a great friend of mine who runs American Greatness, which is phenomenal. It's amgreatness.com, is that right?
It is, yeah.
So I really wanted to have this conversation about thinking big and why the conservative movement, how the conservative movement has been plagued by just saying no all the time. And saying no is very helpful. In fact, there's a lot of things we should say no to. But also, we should be a movement that excites our followers and tries to get people to be thinking outside of just kind of the normal parameters. So, Chris, I want to start with you. You're kind of writing a book around these ideas. What do we have to do to try to expand our horizons and concretely think big in the conservative movement?
I guess let me start with this. It's a matter of we have to reframe our fundamental questions about what it is we're trying to achieve, both in politics and in culture. And the way I think about it is, I guess, two ways. One is, what is it that we want the world around us to look like? How is it that we want to live? Like Francis Schaeffer says, how then shall we live? That's the fundamental question, and we can look back at our own history in this country and maybe take two I think touchstones historically that that conservatives would generally agree are important to how we think about ourselves as Americans. One, of course, is the founding of the Republic, and then the other one is 1955, kind of the founding of the modern post-war American conservative movement, which is the launch of National Review, which kind of became the voice of American conservatism for 25, 30 years. With the founders, they self-consciously made a decision to do the biggest thing that humans can do outside of their families or their churches, which is they started a country, right? That's a pretty ambitious undertaking. Fast forward almost 200 years, and National Review, on the cover of their first edition of the magazine, they famously say, we're standing athwart history yelling stop, and there's a picture of a train coming at them. They're standing in front of a train. I mean, that was not something I would advise my children to do in general. And I think that set the wrong tone.
Well, and staying stop does not stop the train.
It doesn't stop the train. It just is the predicate to you getting flattened. And so there's, my basic viewpoint on how we think about life is there's no neutral. You're either going forward or you're going back. Let's take our cues from what the founders were doing and think about the way we want this country to be. Let's make it very concrete and then talk about how do we get from where we are right now to there.
So, Eric, you and I were talking about this backstage. Nice pink shirt, by the way. That is thinking big.
Anytime, man.
It's always some very...
It used to be white. I threw it in with some red stuff, and I said, you know what? Life is short. Let's go with it.
And you got the blue socks. You are just suited up. It's very
red, white, and
impressive.
blue, brother.
It's the summer wardrobe. Eric, why is it not enough just to say no?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that William F. Buckley was trying to be funny when he had, standing in front of the train. And so that is a characteristic of conservatism, a wink, wit, intelligence. So that's an important thing. We don't need really to unpack that, but it is not immaterial when you're talking about what does it mean to be a conservative. To be able to laugh at things, to laugh at yourself, that's called being emotionally healthy. But if you want to just talk about the basics, conservatism, we believe that you can grow the pie. We can create wealth. Those ideas are antithetical to the socialist left, which says the pie is one size and we have to divide it up. And then, of course, we know, if you understand how economics works, if you think that way, you're going to be shrinking the pie. And so we have to understand that this principle is reality-based. Earlier in the panel, you were talking about math and how math is racist. The left increasingly goes into this Gnostic idea that is anti-reality. Think about what we're talking about. We're at that point now. They're anti-reality. Pretty soon they're going to say carpentry and engineering are racist, right? So reality says that you can grow wealth. So if you care about poor people, you want to grow wealth. So the idea that we're conserving something, at some point, I think you have to step away from that because it's sort of, I mean, of course we're conserving something, but what we're conserving really is fidelity to reality because the left is unmoored from reality. They have these ideas which we have seen in the decades be proved to not work, that we can divide up a certain amount of wealth and everybody will be blessed and we'll live in utopia. That never happens. The ideas of conservatism are fundamentally reality-based. There are a lot of people. How can we bless the most people? How can we give everybody opportunity? So it's a wildly different thing than we're at a point in a sense where it is the left that is trying to conserve the pie, and they can't do it.
So Chris, what does that look like? What does it look like for a movement to start to demand kind of this new era of risk-taking and doing things? Because it seems as if the only risks that we take anymore in society are trying to roll out an experimental vaccine or invading some other sovereign country halfway around the world. Never would we think about actually trying, hey, we should do an ambitious, project to try and get middle-income workers to actually invest in the country or something like that. Of course, that's done in some sort of soundbite way, but not actually substantively or concretely. In the 1950s, Neil Ferguson would say that we built the interstate highway system in a fraction of the time it would take us now for a fraction of the cost, and it wasn't even considered to be that daring at the time because they had just won a major war.
Yeah, no, there's so many of these great examples of things that America used to build. Like if you've been to San Francisco and crossed the Golden Gate Bridge, you go across and you see Treasure Island there. So it's about a 4 square mile island in the middle of San Francisco Bay. It was built during the Depression. It is a man-made island. It was built during the Depression in 12 months, and a few thousand people now live on that island. It took almost 15 years to build about a mile of access road to the Golden Gate in the early 2000s, and cost more in real dollars than it cost to build Treasure Island. And you brought up what I think is one of the key words, which is risk. And so we have become a pathologically risk-averse nation and society. And the irony here is that as we become more risk-averse, it has actually raised the risk level in the country.
So funny.
And that's something that we just don't appreciate. I mean, you think about the last year or so around COVID, think about the things that we have done to this country, to families, to individuals, to businesses, to the social and political fabric of the nation in the names of reducing risk, when in actuality what we've done is raised the risk of failure of all of those things, and in fact caused the failure of a lot of things. I mean, we've seen suicide rates rise in this country. We've seen deaths, other types of deaths of despair related to alcoholism and drug abuse rise over the past year. And so while we're doing this for safety, we don't want the risk. Actually, what we've done is inflict a lot of damage. And so one of the things we need, I think, to do is reframe the way we think about what we're doing and just saying risk is a part of life, and that if we want to do big things, we're going to have to embrace risk. Let me suggest one thing here that I've been thinking about, because I always think, we always talk about these big principles, and that's good, but that's only can be a starting point. Let's always try and concretize these things. One of the things that I've proposed in a couple of different forums, which I think would be interesting, and actually the current governor of Nevada proposes to the legislature. He's a Democrat. He got immediately shut down by the Democrats in his legislature. But he proposed taking a large, I think it was about 100. Don't quote me this, but it was a very large tract of land in Nevada, and basically turning it over to create a charter city. build something new. Allow people to go out and have that experience of conquering a frontier, even if it's only on a small scale, and build a city, experiment, give them a lot of latitude inside the confines, obviously, of federal law. But from the states, from the state's perspective, they could give them a place where people could go and create something absolutely new. They could bring their families. There's no requirement to go there, but it allows people to start to build something that's really tangible.
So Eric, how do we manage that risk? There's the problem, and I was just actually talking to Dan Bongino about this, where he said, and it was a wonderful conversation that we're going to air soon. It was done in the podcast area, where he said, look, the problem is when I grew up, I was able to kind of take all these risks, and my parents didn't let me, and I went on like a mattress on a skateboard down a hill, and my mom was more worried about whether, I dented a car than if I was, hurt. She's like, is there any liability issue here? Oh, by the way, are you okay? But then I asked him, and he was so amazingly honest. I said, so do you let your kids do that? He's like, oh, no, never. And he said, this is the problem I have. And this is just a kind of an example of a risk-averse society. He said, I don't even let my daughter run down the street alone because I'm afraid of what's going to happen. And so how do we establish that middle ground, right? Because maybe it was wrong to have the mattress on the skateboard in the 1950s, maybe not.
Oh, that was totally right.
No, yeah. But you see what I'm saying, Eric? But the reason Dan says that, though, is because he's like, I want to protect my children. How do we find that balance?
Ultimately, for me, all of this comes down to how do you define freedom? We have to redefine freedom. I don't mean redefine it, but I mean we have to understand what do we mean by freedom and liberty. I'm not a libertarian. I believe in God. I believe in the scriptures. And I really believe that apart from the biblical worldview, you can't have freedom. And so if you really want people to be free, you really have to define all this stuff. And the idea of, I would actually say that what has happened, this desire for safety, for guarantees, is fear of death. It's nothing more or less. It is fear of death. In my crazy religion, I believe that my God defeated death on the cross. And I think to myself, if I actually believe that, if I know that that is true, I will live utterly differently. I will live free, without fear. The Democrats and the left are fundamentally fear-based, and they will say things like, we're doing all this weird stuff because we want to save lives. They don't even know why they want to be alive or what the point is. They just use this as a boogeyman to scare people. We want to save lives. They are fundamentally fear-based. If you know who you are and whose, capital W, you are, you can really live freely, and you will live differently. And I honestly think that, even those of us who say we're conservatives or Christians, we've bought into, we're breathing the zeitgeist enough that even folks like Dan Bongino and we have bought into this a little bit because we don't model this in our culture. When I was growing up, I'm watching John Wayne movies and, people are getting in fistfights and cracking chairs over each other's heads and stuff. And you think, that's what it is to be a man. That looks like fun. Today, if you actually did that in a bar, you'd be arrested and you'd have to do community training or something like that because if we don't behave, that's toxic masculinity. The wildness that is at the heart of reality, you can go wrong in two ways, right? You can say, let's just ride that thing and we're going to be free, but we're really going to be people who are living it's license, it's not liberty. And so there is that balance, and you really have to define these things. And it's our culture today, you really get a choice between, I'm a Christian conservative porn star, isn't that great? On the one hand, not that I'm judging, as long as it's Christian porn, I'm good with it. I just want to be very, very clear, right? But the point is that you've got that on the one hand, which is obviously saying that I don't believe in social conservatism. So I want to say to that person, how are you defining anything at this point? You just want anarchy, but you're calling it conservatism. And then on the other hand, you have this inability to be free. And so you're bound up and fear-based. And you say, look, we've only got this. We can never grow wealth. That's a crazy idea. And so we're just going to have to divide it up. And I just want to get my piece. I mean, these are so fundamentally different that we really kind of have to go there.
So Chris, then from a public policy standpoint and how these ideas kind of come into reality, we have to realize there's good risk and bad risk. For example, bad risk would be trying to risk something in the pursuit of licentiousness or in the pursuit of pleasure. That's why the American founding was a great example, because it was risk in the pursuit of virtue, right? So we have to understand that our orientation is really
Correct.
important when we're talking about risk. We're not telling you to just go interrupt traffic to try to say that I'm fighting climate change, right? But we are saying, hey, it might be worth it to try to go through the airport as far as you can without wearing a mask. That's risk.
Crazy talk. Shut him down.
That's risk in the pursuit of a good thing. So we have to make sure we're oriented correctly. And then also, can you give some examples, Chris, of where you've been disappointed that conservatives in public office are not willing to take risks, willing to embrace new ideas for whatever reason? It's almost like they live in this permanent loss aversion state.
I didn't realize you were canceling the rest of the speakers for the afternoon, because that's a long list. I want to just respond quickly to something that Eric said that sort of leads into this. And that is, when you think about the people who sort of identify with the political left, or people who live in opposition to the God of the Bible, atheists, however you want to define them, they know they don't want to die. They don't know how they want to live or why. It's just dying's bad, for sure.
And they have no idea why dying is bad or why life is good.
Because you don't have brunch on Sunday.
I forgot about that. Right.
The secular right that
That's
happens
right.
on the seventh day of the week. And so that, I think it goes back to, like, how do we think about it, which is not wanting to die isn't sufficient. It's why do you want to live? And that defines, to your point, like, what is a good risk to take? What is a foolish risk to take? So risk in the service of something that is worthwhile, virtuous, those risks are at least on the table. Now, there could be ones that prudentially you would say are worth it or not worth it within that universe, but that's got to be your starting point. And this is a place where, to the question you asked, where have people Republican office holders sort of disappointed on this? And I would say there's one big area on this front where Republican office holders have consistently disappointed. And what we've seen over the past 30 or 40 years is that in every even-numbered year, meaning every election year, Republican candidates and office holders realize that a lot of their volunteers, a lot of their voters are people of faith, are Christians, Catholic, Protestant, whatever, are observant Jews. This is the base of the people who forms the core of the Republican coalition. Now, there's obviously other groups, and people view themselves differently, as they have different priorities and whatnot, but office holders go and say, I'm against abortion, I'm for the family, I'm for faith, blah, 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 and oh, by the way, it's November 10th. What's your name again? I don't remember. You voted for me, right? Okay, next. And then they don't really deliver on any of those things. And what has happened is our families have gotten a lot of lip service for the past couple of generations and no action. Families are under more pressure today than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The total fertility rate in this country is well below the replacement rate in this country. Why? Because there are fewer marriages taking place as a percentage of the population. The people who are getting married are having fewer children. The number just came out a week or two ago. The total fertility rate is 1.65 births per female in this country, which is the lowest it has ever been in the United States. 2.1 is the replacement rate. And you cannot support a family of four on a single median wage in this country. That was possible as late as 1989 or 1990, so within the living memory of almost everybody in this room. That fundamentally changes things. Like, if you have to, it says nothing about desire, but if you have to have two people working to support a family of four, that makes it harder to have kids, just raises the bar. And this is a place where there has been a conscious decision, maybe it was a subconscious decision for some people, to say, well, we would rather chase a free trade deal with China, and we don't care what happens to our families. And if American families pay the price, hey, free markets. And that is something that we're going to have to reckon with, because it has a direct material and cultural impact on the future of the country, and we're starting to feel that now.
Yeah, a family-first agenda has been one that has not been put on the forefront for, quite honestly, some time. But it's always given in slogans and in meetings. But what has been the big policy accomplishment for the pro-family agenda since 1980? I mean, maybe a couple tax credits here and there, maybe, right? When you look at, and the reason is because most families don't have lobbyists in Washington, D.C. So we're going to continue this conversation backstage on the podcast later in the day. But Eric, in closing, what can people individually do as they listen to this rebroadcast throughout to actually be able to take those risks and pursue a virtue? Your book that was translated in dozens of languages, the Bonhoeffer book, was about a risk taker. I mean, that's not the only description of him, but I think that's a fair way, right? And if you guys don't know the story of Bonhoeffer, it's incredible. And Eric has wrote the magnum opus on it. And so, Eric, what does that look like?
Well, I think this is there's an irony at the heart of reality. If you know that God is real, then you're a fool not to trust him. And when you trust God, it looks to people who don't know that God is real like you're being a wild man. Like, how can you do that? That is crazy. Don't you understand? You need to be careful. You need to have more fear. Don't you understand what you're doing? But if you are following God, who looks invisible to many people, you just look like a wild risk taker. But you know that it is exactly the opposite. There is nothing safer than following God. So if you trust, if God's, but I mean, think of that irony. So to an atheist or somebody, they look at you like, that's crazy. But you know, no, actually not fearing God and following God is crazy and scary and dangerous and stupid. So when you're talking about something like, you say, hey, we're Americans and we want to trade and we want to grow our economy, so let's trade with China, right? Nice idea. What if China is using slave labor, or what if China is using the money that comes into their economy to oppress human beings, to destroy religious liberty? You then have a choice, and you have to say, if I honor God in my decisions and say, we will not trade with you, China, unless you change this and this and this and this, and we will not compromise. You trust God to say, I will honor you in that commitment, and I will bless you far more than I would have if you would have prostituted yourself and said, I will do anything for the bottom line for my company, Nike or Apple. If you don't have that kind of virtue at the heart of capitalism, if you don't have that kind of virtue at the heart of liberty, the whole thing falls apart. So that's the strange irony. Somebody like Bonhoeffer was doing the only safe and good thing. But to people who didn't see why, he looked like a crazy wild man. And that's the risk we have to take in this thing we call reality.
Well, we're unfortunately short on time, and so we're going to keep this conversation going. As I keep mentioning, if you guys want to check those out, you guys can subscribe to our podcast. And then later today, we're back with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. But let's give it up for our amazing panelists here, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Charlie.